All right. So I'm worried that there's a echo in the audio. How's the audio? Do you guys hear an echo, or do you just hear, you know, what you're supposed to hear, which is, I guess, just one, one audio input. Late. I would first of all, Juan Perret's claiming it's 7:36. No, it's 7:35 is when I started this stream. Audio's good. Audio's all good. All right. Well then, would you guys say that this is the closest we've ever had to a perfect stream? Because right now I have. Oh shoot, my Ethernet. Fuck. I have to plug this in. All right. Now I have Ethernet. So I got Ethernet. I have the good audio. We've got the webcam. I got rid of the shitty background. There's a new background coming. Hopefully you'll see it in the next video. I think everyone will like it. I do have Ethernet now. We fixed that issue. And I'm on time. So, yeah, this is probably the closest we'll ever get to a perfect stream. I guess the only thing that could make this even better is if I watched Film Z. That'll happen as well. But, that's around the corner. Baby steps. So far we got most of the setup, What happened? Why did I struggle with an Ethernet cord? Room looks like white torture, says Decode. The room situation is temporary. It will look better shortly, all right? Room situation is temporary. There's a nicer background coming. I scrapped the previous background of the bookcase. The lights are actually still there. I just have the green lights. I just have them turned off because people were so mean about them. I'll turn them back on, though, just to give the green light lovers what they want. Zachary Eicher says, Morge, keep up the great content, sir. Thank you very much, Zachary. I appreciate it. Everyone should strive to be more like Zachary. Everybody else is critiquing me. Zachary just says, keep up the great content, sir. I appreciate it. Zachary, just for you, I'm going to turn one of the lights red. That's for Zachary. Juan Perret says, Koopy Koop will eternally be a mod. Don't talk to me about Koopy Koop. I don't want to... I'm just going to ignore that guy. He will probably eternally be a mod. Darkwan Jr. says, I like this better than the streamer background. Fine, Darkwan. All right. Darkwan ruined it for everybody. Blame him. Behanort, what's up? If your Discord server showed up at your door to end your reign of tyranny, what would you say to us? I would say, who are you all? Could you please introduce yourselves? I've never met any of you. Maybe if Potential Pizza had a shirt saying Potential Pizza, then I'd know him. But everybody else, I'd just be like, who? I've never met you. Who are you people? Oh, is Phantom Greyfire here? Let me say something. Can't stay for the live stream this week, says Phantom Greyfire. See you, man. Until next week. All right, Jeffrey Warwick gets to the point. He says, no queen was taken out 100%, fam. I did this poll on Twitter. I'm interested to see, just because there might be different audiences. Let's see. Do you all think that queen is defeated or not? Queen defeated, question mark. The part here, you don't need to put Zachary's super chat up. I already answered that. Don't worry about it. Yes. And no. People are saying no, he isn't, lol. Here's the thing. I would be on board with no, he isn't, but the trend of all the Tobi Roppo fights so far have been, they kind of end, I know Queen's not a Tobi Roppo, but at least I think you could look at Jinbei versus Who's Who, and most people did not think that was the end of the fight. It really did not feel like the end of the fight, but then it was. So Sanji's fight honestly seems more conclusive than Jinbei versus Who's Who. Just saying. Ninerbot says, disappointed Sanji didn't say... I don't know if it's Ninerbot or Ninerbot. I think I alternate. I'm going to say Ninerbot for now. Ninerbot says, disappointed Sanji didn't say one of his great one-liners after the Queen fight. Looks like the food was too spicy for you. Jaiburo was great. I mean, as you're seeing Ninerbot, a lot of people don't believe that was the end of the fight. Hence, the lack of classic one-liners from Sanji. Pierce Sullivan says, "Hey Morge, what did you think of the comments from me and others that said Brook was designed as only as someone who is the king of assists?" I did see a lot of those comments. I felt like that was one of the things that I, you know, it's one of the things I could have gone through and like responded to everybody saying that, but at that point I was kind of like, not too invested in that debate or argument. I understand if people feel like that's the case. Uh, to me, I just feel like that's a strange argument to have because it's essentially saying that there's a main character who's not a real main character, right? I think you can have that. I feel like that argument to me makes more sense you know, if I'm looking at, the standard ensemble main cast of any other series, okay? There's other series where I'm just like, what's a random example? If I look at like Guardians of the Galaxy, if I look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, sure, that Groot guy, he's there for comic relief. He kind of just, I'm not expecting him to play a pivotal role every arc. But to me, and the main thing that maybe I didn't get across that well in the video is that I think what makes the Straw Hats so great is that they're a rare cast of characters in fiction where the author really, really, really cares about the story for each one of them. Where every single Straw Hat had an entire arc dedicated to them, right? To fleshing out their story, their motivations, their immediate conflict, like their immediate gripping conflict that's been kind of the crux of who they are for like a large portion of their life, and their long-term hope for the future, and a perfect way to place them into the crew such that they're fulfilling a particular role or need within the crew. And you could put that in the context of, like the factual role, like a shipwright. But then on top of that, you could put it into the context of the crew, like what do they fulfill as part of this group of main characters? So, for example, Usopp provides he is the more human Straw Hat, right? He's the one that we can connect with the most, the one that has the most opportunity for growth, the one that is basically the normal guy who is in this world of monsters and having to grow, right? So there's so much thought put into the Straw Hats as individuals, and I think that's what really makes them such a brilliant ensemble cast, right? That each of them is treated truly like the protagonist of their own story for a good chunk of their story before starting to blend in with the rest of the cast. And I think one of the things that we've seen throughout the time skip is that we've gotten less focus on the Straw Hats, so that feeling that we had throughout most of pre-time skip that each Straw Hat really is the protagonist of their own story. We know each of them really well. Each of them has a tremendous amount of history carved out for themselves and driving motivations carved out for themselves. I think we've gotten less of that since the time skip, but I'm going to leave that aside and just talk about Brook. With the context of everything I just said, do you understand why I feel that it's not a valid reason to just say, well, Brook's purpose is that he's the support Straw Hat. He's there to assist the crew. He's there to help out and kind of pick up the slack wherever, and that's just what he is. That's just, to me, it's like, well, why is he fucking Straw Hat then? That's just not, at that, like, with a group like the Straw Hats where you're writing the story around a set of main characters, right? The brilliance of the crew and what made many readers so attached to the crew was how much we knew them, how much we could love each of them individually, how much time and care and effort was put into each one of them individually. Once you get into the territory of, well, is Oda just adding more Straw Hats for the sake of adding more Straw Hats? Once you're saying, hey, we like this cute furry mink, let's throw Carrot in. She can, add to the comedy a bit more and occasionally have a moment here or two there. Let's just add, let's throw a giant in to make sure we have a giant. You're getting to a point of diminishing returns. So with Brook, as soon as you add Brook, you're now at a point where you have 9 main characters. 9 main characters is a lot of main characters. If you really want to write a story really focused on all these main characters, then you should never be adding more once you're getting to the realm of 9, 10 main characters, why would you be adding in more main characters if suddenly their roles are starting to be diminished to, well, this one just provides assists, this one provides support for the crew. It's really, that's just, it doesn't make sense for the story past a certain point, you understand? If Oda has a clear vision for how this character is going to add to the dynamic, how he still has, a really strong, compelling narrative that can carry through arc to arc with this new addition to the crew, I'm all for it. But, if we're getting to the point where it's just adding a side character to the main crew for the sake of adding a side character and then just justifying it as, well, they provide support, no, I don't think that's particularly good, especially considering Brook has so much potential. That's the thing. Brook has so much potential, and you can see that even as Oda's gotten away from the East Blue 5, he's still trying to think of things that he can do arc to arc with each of the falling Straw Hats. Robin, Frankie, Chopper, etc. Once you're getting down to Brooke, and it's just weird to me that people are justifying it as like, oh, he's just support. It's like, no, this is a straw hat. Like, why are you not treating him as though like he's like hold him to the same standard that you would want things out of a Robin, the same standard you'd want things out of a Sanji or a Nami, right? Like, if you're getting to the point of like just accepting that like, well, there's 8 main characters and then there's Brooke, that's just weird to me. And I don't know, it's just weird that people seem to have rationalized that as just being his role, because then you have to acknowledge that, well, then Oda's just adding superfluous characters that don't really add that much to the story, because once you're getting to a point of diminishing returns, and you're just taking up more panel space with certain characters that don't actually generally add to the group dynamic, don't genuinely bring their own stories to the table, or organic story arcs to the table, then, many arcs would not be different if Brooke was there or not. Punk has you take him out, Dressrosa you take him out, Zoe you take him out, even Whole Cake Island, there are other Straw Hats that could have easily taken up Brooke's role. It was really the fact that so many Straw Hats were missing that Brooke was able to take such a role in Whole Cake Island. But do you guys get what I'm saying? Let me catch up on some chats. I think I'm like very open to like more discussion on Brooke, but I don't like when the discussion sort of circumvents the point. Like when I talk about like, okay, what's going on with Brooke? Why are things the way that they are? What could be expected of him in the future? Maybe Oda's setting up for this. I don't like. I'm just not very receptive to arguments that kind of just circumvent the topic, which are just like, well, Brooks just support, so that's why he's written the way he is. It's like, okay, but doesn't that open up a whole like host of new potential issues with, like, if anything, that doubles down on issues with having a character like that as part of the main crew with a story that's already, filled with as many characters to focus on as One Piece. The pirate here says, I usually love Queen's gags and incompetence, but I wish he didn't give the invisibility away like a dumbass with the floor creaking. Kind of lightened a really cool moment when he first showed it off. I don't know if the floor creaking, I get what you mean. The floor creaking, a little odd. I feel like the floor creaking, I would have just liked personally a little more clarity as to Sanji. He caught him with observation haki, right? I guess we don't really need clarity on that. We can just assume that was the case. Yeah, so to me, if the floor creaked or not, it wouldn't have made a difference, right? Because Sanji, we can assume, caught him with observation haki, in which case a floor creak isn't really going to do much either way. So I don't actually know why Oda wrote in the floor creak, but, I don't think... I'm going to end this poll real quick. Sorry, it's still up. But I don't think that... Yeah, I just don't feel like Queen... you can say that the ending situation was perhaps a little bit contrived, but I don't think, the floor creak, I don't view it as like a particularly big, glaring, strange thing to me, personally. If anything, I think it's kind of interesting that, like, Queen's so big and, like, it doesn't seem like he made a lot of sound when moving around. Like, there was a minor creak of the floorboards, but, like, I don't know. Queen got around kind of quietly, like an elephant tiptoeing around. Aliet05 says, Buggy's going to hang with Shanks. His crew will set up the food stalls and fun for the Davy backfight. That would be awesome. I would love to see the Buggy pirate crew ending up, at least next time we see them, allied with Shanks. That would be really, really cool to see. I think also, I've been of the opinion for a long time that Buggy would eventually end up on Luffy's side. I would love to see him as part of the, pirate fleet, for example, but Shanks' side is, I don't know, that has maybe a little more weight to it, actually. That'd be really fun to see. Behanort asks, if Yamato goes back to being a girl, wouldn't that send a message of being trans is a phase you outgrow? Because that would suck. Behanort, so I mean, I know that this has, I guess, been, a bit of a, Yamato's been a controversial character, I guess, for certain reasons along those lines. I can't really give a really good take on this, to be honest, because I think I'm not the best equipped person to talk about the social nuances of that. But I would say this is my take. I like to think that Oda has included throughout the series for better or for worse, I think Oda throughout the series has included a lot of, I guess, trans and gender fluid inclusion. And maybe his, from Mr. Like a lot of the best characters in the series, like Mr. 2 is considered by many to be one of the best characters in the series. So, and you would consider Mr. 2 to be, I guess, by definition, he's a very gender fluid character, right? Same with Ivankov and the newcomer. I think Oda has really gone out of his way to like maybe occasionally he's poking fun and not fully understanding, but at the same time, I don't think I've ever seen a series that's like so openly like, oh yeah, this the fluidity of being able to pick, man or woman, etc. That's just a natural part of freedom, and that there's nothing wrong with it. So like, I guess there's some comedy involved as well as like some, I guess really feel good messaging involved there as well. So I think Oda throughout the series has honestly, I think done. I don't think that he necessarily needs to prove himself in that sort of regard, I guess, in terms of good intentions. As for the Yamato, I know that's not what you were asking, but I was just thinking out loud. As for the Yamato situation specifically, I would use Kiku as the counter example and basically say that, like, I think Oda never really used Kiku as, anything but, like, never represented her as anything but a she, right? And that is, like, he stayed very true to the identity that she chose for herself. With Yamato, I think the gender is just not the key part of it. That's the difference. So I don't think that would, like, it's not that being trans is a phase for her. In my opinion, it would basically be that believing that she needs to be Odin is a phase for her, right? Believing that you need to copy somebody else down in like every single aspect in order to, properly emulate them or properly live the way that they lived or live by the ideals that they portrayed, right, or embodied, right? I think that's kind of the lesson. So the gender part, that's not really relevant to this, right? Because if we learn kind of that Yamato only wants to be Odin or only wants to be a man because Odin's a man, so it's not really related to her own sense of identity or whatever. It's just her. You get what I'm saying, right? It's just her basically picking a person who happens to be a man and saying, I want to be that person, and because that person happens to be a man, I'm going to be a man. But once she realizes she no longer wants to be that person, then like everything associated with that person no longer really applies. You get what I'm saying? So it was never really about the gender, as I understand it, with Yamato. Aslan says, Luffy versus Jack in Act 4, and I asked a girl out, and she said, yes, Morge. 2 things. Luffy versus Jack, that's a weird sentence. 2 things. Luffy versus Jack in Act 4, and I asked a girl out, and she said, yes, Morge, I feel like you're the perfect person to give me advice, my friend. I didn't give you advice on that. Luffy versus Jack in Act 4, these are both not questions. These are just statements. How am I supposed to help you with this? All right, I'll do my best. Luffy versus Jack in Act 4. Is that your theory? I would love to see it, but I think that at this point, even I, who've been a long-term Luffy versus Jack advocate, like, I don't know if, I don't see Luffy fighting Jack again necessarily, unless we had a situation where Luffy, like, lost all his haki or something like that after such a devastating defeat. Then maybe we see something like Luffy versus Jack in Act 4. I don't know what that would accomplish. I don't know if that even makes sense. But I think that would be interesting to see. But even I'm not like 100% on Luffy versus Jack on like at this point in the story. Luffy's ridiculously strong and Jack is, he's Jack. Next part, I feel like you're the perfect person to give me advice. You asked a girl out and she said yes. What advice do you need? You already did the hard part. I mean, I guess that's not necessarily the hard part, but that's for most guys, that initial feeling of rejection, that's the scary part. So you already did the hard part. So now next step is, I assume that you asked her out to some sort of a date. I don't know if you jump straight to, the classic Netflix and chill, or if you wanted to go out for drinks or whatever. But, just don't overthink it. Just go with the flow. You already did the hard part, the thing that most guys find to be the hard part. So you don't need any advice, man. You got it. It's also a good way for me to skip having to give advice. All right. Let me catch up. Tyson Hoffman says, Morge, if you could have one type of hockey, what would it be and why? I've always said this. Observation hockey would be really useful in real life. Because I always put things into the context of real life. Oh, wait, I missed Babtron's message. All right, hold on. Let me answer this random hockey question first. I've always said this. In real life, hockey doesn't, Conqueror's hockey does you no good. You can knock people out, but, you would get in trouble with the government. That's the thing. People don't think about this. With armament or Conqueror's hockey, people would start viewing you as, a weapon of mass destruction, and they would, try and capture you. They'd put you in jail. Not jail, but they'd, put you in labs and experiment on you and shit, okay? in real life, you need subtle utility-based abilities. So like observation haki. That's what's really useful. Alliot05 says, force her to watch her piano recital. That's what's up. That's if you want a guaranteed way to lose her, definitely do that. Babtron says, Queen has a few tricks left. Hostage. Hashtag Babtots. That's not a hashtag that's going to catch on. I think that, look, Queen, you guys will get some clarity on my thoughts regarding the whole Queen situation with the next video that comes out tomorrow. I would be cool with if Queen is defeated, because then it opens the door to something a little more interesting, in my opinion. And even if Queen is not defeated, then let me be blunt, all right? The way that Oda wrote those final moves by Sanji, right? The way that Oda wrote the final barrage of attacks by Sanji, Maze said, get her flowers and be respectful. That's all you need. Flowers are cringe. Do not get her flowers. Do not get her flowers. Unless this is like prom or homecoming or something like that, do not get her flowers. This isn't the 1920s, dude. What the fuck? What was it? Where were we at? It was about Queen, right? Yeah, no. So look, Sanji's final barrage of attacks, the way they were written, it's kind of like how Oda would structure a finishing series of moves, right? That's kind of how he would do it. This wasn't just like you can go back and reread other Sanji fights. Fights often take place over the course of 2 chapters. Yes, Oda will kind of leave a cliffhanger at the end of 1 chapter with Sanji getting a good hit in or figuring something out. But this series of attacks, it's remarkably similar to the finishing move on Kirubi back in Arlong Park. There's just, when Oda's stacking up like 6-7 attacks in a row and finishing it off with like a big, the big finisher or whatever, that does feel more like the ending blow, in my opinion, at least in the past, in terms of, typical, typical Sanji fights, right? I could do a magic show with Conqueror's Haki, says Chin Ho Wong. Yeah, I can start a career as a magician if I had Conqueror's Haki. What an amazing career to aspire to. I could be a world famous magician. Awesome. Daniel Predis says, after you saw Bebop live action, how do you think named attacks should be handled in the One Piece live action? They could be for finishing moves, but cringy if used for every attack. Oh man, dude, named moves, I'll be honest, that was something I didn't even think of when I was considering the One Piece live action. Like, I did not think about it. That's kind of, they would have to really, really hit a very specific tone that comes across well in the live, like I can't even imagine it. What tone would really come across well in the live action that could make room for freaking named attacks? Why did I say frick? I can curse, it's my stream. For some reason in my head I was like, wait, don't curse. Sometimes I get it mixed up because you can't curse in YouTube videos, but my editor does a good job of leaving it. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I'll be honest. I think it's really hard to make named attacks work well. Maybe if they just name certain attacks. So I think if you name every single attack, maybe it's a little much. But like maybe just big finishing moves, that'd be cool to see. I think, depending on how it's done. Ish Naveen says, doesn't Oda indicate when a villain is defeated by explicitly stating it in the chapter? Maybe I'm missing something. I hope the fight isn't over. I'm really enjoying the Sanji awesomeness. Ish, I mean, I think I've seen that as a trend in previous fights for sure. But Onigashima, I think so far, almost not a single, almost. Maybe Ulti we got to see it confirmed that she was defeated. But in general, like go back to Jinbei versus Who's Who, how that ended, Frankie versus Sasaki. Oda's been very unclear as to how these fights have really ended. Which is why I want you guys to see tomorrow's video. I think tomorrow's video is interesting. Maybe people will call me crazy here after tomorrow's video, but I think it opens up some interesting possibilities. Kachi Damien says, theory. Luffy's finishing blow will King Punch in Act 4. King Punch in Act 4. Oh, like the Lisabello King Punch? And the crew will fight Kaido while he warms up his haki to throw the final blow. I still am on board with the crew fights Kaido at some point. Yeah, the crew fights Kaido at some point. I'm still on that train. I just don't know if like it would be for Luffy to warm up an attack. I like the idea that it would be defending Luffy while he has to regain his haki or something along those lines. Like last line of defense before getting to their captain. Okay, well, else says, do you think Star Platinum can beat Queen? I'm going to answer this just because I'm on my JoJo's kick right now. I'm watching Stone Ocean. Almost done with Stone Ocean. You know, the first 12 episodes. Been enjoying it quite a bit. Stone Ocean anime, I highly recommend because I think it... I have a more positive opinion of Part 6 than a lot of the manga readers of Part 6. But even I would say that the anime for Stone Ocean knocked it out of the park. I think it's way better than the manga for Stone Ocean. Because most people would agree that the Stone Ocean manga, it doesn't get off to the hottest start, right? Not that it's bad, just I don't think that it doesn't reach the heights that it has towards the end for sure. And I think compared to other JoJo parts, it maybe does not have the hottest start. But the anime really found a way just through, animation, directing style, making a lot of parts in the early bits of Stone Ocean more interesting, more suspenseful, they didn't change any of the events. It was just cool to see. They didn't change any of the events, just the way that they framed everything, the music, shots, etc., like animation style. They just made it more dramatic and more suspenseful. And I don't know. I was really, really impressed with the Stone Ocean anime. Star Platinum versus Queen, though, it's weird because, like, I don't even want to spoil what Star Platinum can do. Star Platinum's just a weird match because, like, okay, it has that ability. You guys know that ability that it has, right? It's just that, like, in terms of physical stats, I don't know if it could actually harm someone like Queen because One Piece characters are fucking monsters in terms of physical stats. Thomas Kaz says, do you think any of the Straw Hats will get a new epithet at some point? And if so, what would you like? Also, maybe a nickname / either tier list. I can run through it quick. Because I do think I'm of the opinion, like some people are, that Wano might get the Straw Hats new epithets because, it's kind of like this is the arc where they kind of hit that, Yonko status most likely, like the greatest pirates in the world. Like at this point, if you don't have like your final cemented name that is your legacy as a pirate or whatever, it would be kind of weird. Like Cat Burglar Nami is so outdated, right? Same with, just the ideas of identity and things in Wano would be a fitting point, right? Wait, maybe I could make this a video. I'm going to make this a video. I'm not going to answer your question. I'm sorry, Thomas Kaz. I'm not going to answer your question. This will be a fun video. Thank you for the video idea. I'm going to write it down. Sorry, Thomas Kaz. I appreciate you. Terry Martin says, between Zoro and Sanji, who has the more problematic views on women? If you were to introduce one of them to female friend / sister, who would it be? More problematic views on women. It's so funny because they're not actually far ends of the extreme. They're actually very similar. Like, they both view women as... No, okay, it's weird. Sanji views women as superior, but he views them as superior for the qualities that he views them as having that are distinct from men. So, like, they're not as, like, I guess, like, they're just, I guess he associates them with, like, kindness, nurturing, stuff like that, right? The opposite of what his brothers represent, And then, obviously, the sexual aspect of it, which is just his perviness coming out. But, like, he just puts them on a pedestal for certain reasons, but he also... I know certain things. I know terms. This is called benevolent sexism. I know certain things. I'm aware of things, right? I know these terms. Benevolent sexism. As far as I understand, that's when I'm gonna mess it up. I don't know what it means. It's something like good intention. Like Sanji's don't hit a woman, right? That's a positive thing that he has. But it's still technically sexism. You get it? That's what it is, basically. That's benevolent sexism. You can Google it. It'll be pretty much exactly what I said. All right. What's Zoro's thing? Zoro's thing is, it's also benevolent sexism, right? Because he's also like, well, I don't want to fight women because he views women as weaker. Yeah, so both of them, I guess, view women as someone to not be harmed in combat because they don't view them as equal to men. Um, but Sanji's thing, his shtick is just different in that, in addition to that, he puts them above men in his, like priorities list for everything in terms of how he wants to treat them across the board because he just holds them in such a, holy light. As for who would I introduce one of them to, like a female friend slash sister, Sanji. Like for all of the stuff you're gonna say about Sanji, he would treat, you know, uh, he would treat a woman like a goddess, right? The way that he treats Nami and Robin, who he's not even dating, as these goddesses that he will await on hand and foot. Like that's basically it. What more do you want? That's basically it. And as much as you want to say like Sanji's pervy or whatever, like it's not like he's like he would never do anything to harm, you know, he would never do anything to harm a woman. Not saying Zoro would, but Zoro's just gonna be indifferent and somewhat apathetic, and probably not the best like boyfriend slash husband, and probably a little, blunt and crass occasionally without really realizing it. Probably like not too sensitive. So, no questions there. Aslan, are you still on the flowers? Listen, Aslan, do not get the no, don't do not get first of all, okay, basics, all right? I don't know what people in this chat are telling you, but basics. Okay, these things depend, I guess, what age range you're in, all right? How well you know the girl, stuff like that. I'll just say strongly do not recommend flowers. Strongly do not recommend like, the whole dinner thing, first date. That's not a thing anymore. All right, don't do things like that. All right, that's just don't do. Ha says get her lingerie, which is definitely not a thing. All these people who are saying you should be doing flowers, if anything, that should tell you do not do that. These people, that's actually insane. This is not. That's not the norm anymore. I promise you. Atris says Sanji's eyebrows still have, unless you're like, I don't know, like, did you ask her to like some 5-star classy restaurant or something like that, which you shouldn't do for first date ever at all. But like, I guess with certain context that makes sense. But no, first date casual drinks, something simple where you can, just not don't make a huge deal out of it. Atris says Sanji's eyebrows still hasn't reverted. Might indicate Sanji's arc isn't done. I would love it if Sanji's arc isn't done. That's the really interesting thing that was dropped. I like the fight that came out of it. I thought last chapter was pretty cool. I like the fight. I would not even mind if that was the end of his fight. I would not even mind if that was the end of his fight. I thought it was pretty cool. I would have liked to see more, but I thought it was pretty cool. But the eyebrows thing, like the character conflict that was set up, I thought it could have been so much more interesting. So, I don't know. Power Ranger says, if Minks were somehow from one of the moons, would they always be in Sulong form, or is there a restriction on how long they can be in that form? If the Minks were from from the moons, I don't think the Minks are from the moons, dude, so I don't really know how to answer this question. Would they always be in Sulong form? Okay. I get what you're saying. Like, let's say you hypothetically dropped a mink onto the moon, how would they react, right? Let's say that's the question. I guess they would always go to Sulong form, right? Because you would constantly have that energy feeding you. Ninerbot says, just ask her for her panties like Brooke. This is why you don't take advice from the chat. This is the type of stuff you're getting. Where are we at? I'm far behind. Star Platinum can shatter diamonds, says Dr. Farewell. That's true. It can. It's just that there's also like randomly limits to what it can do. You know what I mean? Julian Criswell says thoughts on Green Bull being based on Toshiro Mifune. I mean, I could definitely see that because that's kind of the classic actor that's still missing from Oda's his his set of admiral actors. So I could definitely see that. Thomas Cass says, my question being a video is a high honor. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Keenan says, Sanji hit Jaibura with a barrage of kicks in chapter 414 titled Sanji vs. Jaibura, but didn't actually beat Jaibura with Diablo Jambe until the next chapter. 415 total heat up. Worst case, Queen is getting packed up next chapter. Let's go. No, I know what you mean, but I'm saying like there's a difference between like a barrage of. I actually know exactly the lineup of kicks that you're talking about, right? And even after hitting Jaibura with that barrage of kicks, as far as I remember, the issue that Sanji was dealing with at the time was that like he could hit him with all those kicks and even knock him down, but he couldn't get through the iron body. So I think the portrayal of the barrage is a little different, right? In that like this is at the end of a chapter. Sanji's had a little bit of that inner monologue, hyping himself up, being like, okay, I have this ability, this ability, this ability. Now it's all going to come together with this special new ability. Like this was essentially the reveal. To me, this chapter, the ending of it felt framed like two things. So it felt similar to the moment that Sanji unveiled Diable Jambe, combined with the finishing move against Kurobi. Both of those were climactic endings to battles, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying like every barrage of attacks, like Luffy throws out Gatling guns all the time. I'm not saying every barrage of attacks leads to the end of a fight, but I'm just saying the framing of it, right? So the power up, the inner monologue, the speech that Sanji's giving as he's doing it, not necessarily a long speech, but Sanji's got some trash talk as he's doing it. Then the double page spread of all of the attacks and everything like that coming together. I think that I don't know. If it was any other arc, then maybe I'd be like, yeah, I could definitely see another chapter for sure. But because we've seen these other, like how these other Onigashima fights have been going, I don't know. I don't know about that. Skylar H says, if Queen is down here before awakening, I'm convinced the majority of awakened zones are going to get back up awakened, perhaps after a Kaido flashback. Skylar H, you have read my mind because that is... Everyone watch tomorrow's video and keep what Skylar H just said in mind because Skylar H read my mind. Tomorrow's video is on this very topic, everyone. And I've got some stuff for you. I've got some interesting stuff for you, I think. There's certain pages and panels from previous arcs that make me think that there's a possibility. Hold on, catching up. Try not to get too far behind. Behanort says, I know Marineford comes out on 12/21, but what are the future analysis in plans? More arc analysis, something different? If I told you guys I got like a lot of stuff on my plate, there's what I want to do and then what happens, right? What I want to do and then what happens. Marineford took so much time. Not because the video itself, like the video itself is a long video and it's in depth, but it's also just like the time it took to set aside from everything else that I'm doing to work on Marineford is a lot. Most of my analysis stuff right now goes on to Movie Morge. By the way, I dropped a video on Movie Morge yesterday that I think could be interesting to everybody. I think it's a really good video, in my opinion. I think I normally don't talk up my Movie Morge videos much, but I think that one, maybe I do. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I think the one that I dropped recently, I was actually genuinely very proud of that video because I learned a lot while making it. And I think it's something that's not discussed in the terms that I have discussed it quite as much. But most analysis effort ends up going into that. Analysis for One Piece. I have so many topics. I'm at a point where every topic I would do from here on, like I could force it. Like I could do shorter topics. I could do a video on law, like a lot of material for a video on law, for example, but I don't feel like doing a video on law. Stuff that I really want to do, so videos on like One Piece's story structure, which I maintain till the end of time. I believe One Piece has the best story structure, like long-term story structure I've ever seen in any story. And like, it's the thing that is the greatest thing about One Piece, in my opinion, that people talk about the least. Or they kind of acknowledge it, but don't really go in depth into like the whole blueprint. Like, the whole blueprint of One Piece is just amazing. Like how X connect. I won't go into it here, okay? But certain things I want to talk about, like broader themes like fate or story structure, or like even just how Oda does the building of the Straw Hat Crew. Like I think there's so many topics that would, the topics left that I really want to do, of which there's still a lot, they're all just really long topics. They would all be like Marineford level commitments. So I just got to think. I'm going to not think about the future. I'm going to do Marineford, see how that goes over, and then from there we'll see. Gabe C says, Zoro is a legit alcoholic with an obsession for weapons. A legit alcoholic with an obsession for weapons. I wouldn't let him anywhere near my family. He is fair. Not to mention his blatant disdain for people of color. I'm gonna let that one slide. I don't believe in that. Captain Face says, "Do you see the raid failing if Queen is defeated?" I agree, things are missing. Captain Face, I'll say this: if we get like one more chapter, which is really in depth and like Sanji going through like this whole character arc thing or whatever, and like really, really like making it feel like we got a really full, complete fight, then yeah, I would say that high chance that like the raid is just going to succeed. If we cut away from Sanji next chapter and it's like on to the next fight or something like that, like if not even cut away, I'm just saying like if this was basically the end of the fight and we're on to the next fight, Zoro versus King or whatever, then I think the hopes for the raid failing are alive and well for reasons you will see in tomorrow's video. Full question was, Oda has a lot of plot lines to handle this arc and some are more important than others. Raizo versus Fukurokuju, RIP. That's why some lack focus. I mean, I agree. I would love to see Oda trim down on that as we go on, especially if the raid fails. I think that would give Oda a lot of room to trim down and just focus on things that a lot of people, are more interested in. Princess Sako says, CT, if we went on a date, where would you take me? All right. I don't want to open up into these sort of questions with viewers because I feel weird about this. I'm just going to say in general, nowadays, I think the standard basically for me is if it's someone I met off a dating app, just do drinks. That's the easiest thing. Drinks in an area that's close to you or them. It's easy, it's casual, non-committal, and like everyone that is in my age range at this point can drink, so there's not much thought put into it. Like it's not like, oh, I gotta find something to do, gotta like do whatever. Things I would not suggest that are standards are basically like, don't want to do like a big dinner or something because that's just, it's just like too formal in my opinion, unless you're like cooking at someone's house, which is more fun, or like, movies. I mean, people say like, I don't think that that's like the best because unless you plan something before and then after, you know what I mean? Because then you don't really have much to, not really interacting with a person that much just during the movie. But I mean, drinks are basically just the standard. Like that's just the standard at this point in my mind. That's why maybe Aslan, maybe that's why you suggesting flowers, it just put a whole different picture. I'm like, what do you do? Are you like booking at like, I don't know your age or whatever. I don't know if you're booking at like some 5-star classy restaurant, showing up in a tux, bringing flowers. To me, that seems like a bit much. That's all I'm saying. But context matters, how you know the person, what age range you are, what you have planned for the night. Sabatu Barnahi Berhane says, do you think Sanji will have a new form, or maybe this will happen with Ifrit Jambe, which will have hot blue flames to signify the heat of his flame? Do we know the color of Ifrit Jambe? I don't think Sanji needs a form necessarily because I personally like Ifrit Jambe as an upgrade over Diablo Jambe better, as long as it has more of a visual spin to it. So like I like the idea of new colored flames. We saw some lightning. People were calling it plasma and stuff. Enhanced visuals definitely helps. Aslan saying lots of good advice, but ignoring my advice, even though in my opinion it's the best advice. Where are we at? Kailash says, when buying flowers, buy set with a theme. It'll make the gesture more interesting. I'll be honest. The last time I bought like a full thing of flowers for like a first date sort of thing was prom, 11th grade prom. So I don't think I even did that for 12th grade prom. So I have no input on the flowers thing. Maybe that's somebody else's approach, but that's not exactly on my radar. Luca, parentheses, girl's name. In Ringo Shimatsuki Homeland, we are told a sword is a person's will. If Kuina's will is inherited in Sandai, I assume you mean Wado, why does Zoro use Nitoryu before meeting her? What does that mean? Why does Zoro use Nitoryu before meeting her? Why does Zoro use Nitoryu? I don't really know what that means. Why is that separate? Because Kuina's will is inherited in Wado Ichimonji. Zoro was using Nitoryu before he met her. And then once he met her, then he kind of adapted her sword into his fighting style and he became the 3-sword style swordsman. So I don't really know. I didn't maybe understand the question fully, but that's all I got. Sorry. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Isaiah Davis says if Sanji's true finishing blow is a punch of some kind, would be a major is a punch of some kind would be a major. Yeah, people talk about Sanji hitting a woman, but people don't really talk about the other taboo of Sanji just hitting someone. You know, Sanji using his fist. I think that'd be really cool to see. If we saw Sanji just punch someone, that would be a great indicator. Isaiah Davis, that's a really good point. Like that's something a little more blatant than hitting a woman that we might just randomly see. Because and it fits with the idea of losing your emotions because the idea that Sanji uses his feet to fight, that's because he places so much value, emotional value on certain principles like, well, I'm a chef, I need my hands to feed to feed people, to feed my friends, to feed people in need, etc. So these hands are sacred, etc. Feet are for fighting. But if you're a cold, hardened soldier, you're not going to have a mentality like that. You're going to have the mentality of, you know, uh, uh, like do whatever it takes, use any ability that you have. The Pirate Hero says, your last movie video was really interesting. Thank you, The Pirate Hero. I appreciate it. How do you think One Piece handles how many characters it closely follows, and is it being done worse in Wano? Excellent question. I would recommend watching that video for most people. I think One Piece, one of the reasons I view the Straw Hats overall, and was praising them so much earlier in this video, I view the Straw Hats as such great characters, and in my opinion, the best ensemble cast I've ever seen in any series, is because Oda literally cut out, like, as I was saying in that video, like, you need to really attach a viewer, a reader, or whatever, a consumer, with a fictional character and build that empathy and that emotional investment. You need to take time to have that reader or viewer or whatever, in the context of movies, the viewer, get to focus all their empathy exclusively on that one character. Let the viewer be drawn into that character's story so that you can feel emotionally invested in that character's story. And One Piece is the only story that I have read that really, really goes out of its way to carve entire arcs, like a full arc that is really just the essence of one character, right? Like Baratier is all Sanji. Arlong Park is all Nami, right? Drum Kingdom is all Chopper. Sure, you get to like Enies Lobby and stuff, and maybe it's a little split between Frankie and Robin. Maybe that is one of the reasons why Frankie is not quite at he's not listed as one of the most compelling, narratively compelling characters as some of the other Strats, because Robin ended up sucking up a lot of the focus that arc. Although I still think Oda did a great job with Frankie, and I love Frankie's backstory. But that's one of the things. So, a lot of stories, they will do the minimum of having character backstories, right? But One Piece goes the extra 10 miles of first of all, Oda really, really, really puts a tremendous amount of time and care and creativity into making each individual Straw Hat's backstory as tragic and as compelling and as emotionally moving as possible. He has a great talent for that. And then on top of that, he constructs the entire arc around that character and the conflict that comes out of their backstory. So whatever conflict was set by their backstory that centers their character, the entire arc's conflict is set around that. So resolving the conflict of the arc resolves the character conflict and basically has us as the reader get to experience this whole transformation of this new character from A to B by the end of an arc and really grow close to that character. So to me, One Piece excels at everything that I said matters a lot in that video, right? I mentioned for movies, it's best not to try and focus on more than one character at once, but I said in longer mediums, you have more time to do that. And I think One Piece does that phenomenally. You could imagine each arc, right, as like a movie, and the star of this movie is Chopper. The star of this movie is Nami, right? You can go down the row like that, and that's why One Piece is so good at setting up the Straw Hats as main characters. I don't think that people like the Scabbards that much because of the simple thing that I mentioned, which is compassion fade. And again, you can watch that video if you want more context on it. But the Scabbards, Oda did not, obviously, because of constraints of time and just logistics, and Oda's not going to put nearly that much time at all. The simple comparison someone made, which I 100% agree with, and I've felt for a long time, someone mentioned this is why, in the comments of that video, this is why I loved Vivi so much in Alabasta and felt so much more for Vivi, a single character, than I do for all of the Scabbards combined. Because it's not like you're comparing Vivi to like Vivi's just better than all of the Scabbards all combined. It's compassion fade. It's easier to love and feel more compelled by the story of one single character, Vivi, than it is by 9 different characters, all just as a group, as an ensemble. We're not wired to care about ensembles. So maybe I think that that is one of the reasons that the Scabbards don't really pull at the heartstrings of a lot of readers. And again, I would suggest bugging it one more time, watching that video to get my whole discussion on that subject. Scholar H says, your videos helped me come to that conclusion. Oh, awesome. Thanks for the great content. No problem. Also, you think Drake's arms are stronger in human form or dino form? Great question. I think that they're stronger in dino form, right? Or hybrid form. Hybrid form. But not in dino form. So hybrid, then human, then dino, in my opinion. Nuxmisk says, most likely it's white hot. Yeah, white hot seems right to me. Blue seems like, yeah, I think blue seems like it's too similar to Marco's, right? So not really unique in that sense. I think white's something pretty cool. White's pretty cool. Eric Trolato says, Eric, I always like how blunt you are. Eric comes in and says, yo, Morge, this Sanji fight is bad, right? Question mark. Listen, Eric. I think the Sanji fight, I think that the character stuff before this chapter, if you're talking about this chapter, I think Sanji legitimately had his best, maybe one of his best, but arguably, like, the moment that he had, right, a couple chapters ago with destroying the raid suit, I think was one of his best moments in the series. At the time I said his best, I felt it was a little contingent on how things played out from there. I still feel like there's a strong argument that that's the best moment for him in the series. Let me reread, get some, recency bias out of the way or whatever, but at that moment I was like, this is amazing. I love this moment for Sanji. This chapter's fight, I went back and reread other Sanji fights. I definitely, and I kind of skimmed them. I think other fights had more of a flow story-wise to them, and I talked about that in my chapter review. There was more. It's hard for me to separate the Sanji character moment from the action that we got this chapter. So I kind of like view them a little bit together. So I kind of like elevate this fight in my mind in general because I like the character moment that Sanji got before it. So maybe it's difficult for me to view this moment, this chapter, this fight in isolation. I think I get what people are saying in that this would feel anticlimactic if this is the end of Sanji's fight, and then some people seem to have issues with, some stuff that Queen did or the way Queen acted or whatever. Like, is it smart? Is it whatever? I'm of the opinion that, that we've still got some more twists coming up. So even if Queen is down for the moment, hypothetically, I think that we could get something really good in the future, and it wouldn't matter that much. That's my opinion. The Pirate Hero says super chat from Behanort. My bad if I missed this. I know Yamato might not have gender dysphoria, but you don't need it to be trans. You just have to identify as a gender. You just have to identify as a gender you weren't born as. Let's not be Truscum. So the idea that you need dysphoria to be trans. I get that, but then if Yamato no longer feels right, like if even if Yamato does not have gender dysphoria, if Yamato at the end of this no longer feels like she wants to be Odin, and it just so happens that along with that, a natural side effect of that is that, well, now she's back to probably whatever she identified as before she realized that, she had this attachment to Odin. So I would assume that if Yamato goes back to calling herself female after this, then I would just assume that up till she saw Odin, she identified as female, right? That's what I would assume. And once that Odin influence is kind of like has been resolved in her mind to a degree, and she no longer feels like literally being that person, then as that mentality kind of leaves her, then that would just so happen to also have her maybe choosing once again to identify as a girl. So I don't think, I agree that it's not necessarily like she needs to have gender dysphoria to feel what she does, but like it would, like, I don't think that Oda would be doing anything necessarily against, the trans movement or against trans people by having it be that like Yamato just kind of changes her mind on this whole persona of Odin, which just so happens to be, including gender, but isn't really specifically about gender. You know what I mean? That's my thoughts. William Xavier says, third channel, more dating advice. dude, the movie channel in itself is like so much, and like that's that in itself. I want to be able to like what do you call um how do you say? I want to be able to scale that channel really, really, really hard because I really, really like the content in that channel. But like, it's so difficult time wise to split all your time between stuff. Like, I didn't even realize it's going to be that hard to split time between the movie channel and the Morge channel because like the movie channel is where I put in more of my analysis work at the moment, but it also means I can put less analysis work into the Morge channel. And then on top of that, like you guys don't even know, but like the main thing that takes up more of my time is the business that we run on the side, and that's like I don't know. It's just like three things to juggle. The movie channel is the one that I have the most fun with at the moment, to be honest. But that's the one that's like the least important, but at the same time, the one that I most care about scaling. So I don't know. Like that's a bit of a side tangent, I guess, but like you got me thinking in general. Um, Multiple channels is a hard life. Let me see. Where are we at? Where were we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? I skipped so many of these. No. I found us. All right. Justin Holland says, "Is Nami similar to Luffy in regards to lost fostered loved ones? Brook as a hope bringer, equipment upgrade for Sanji post Strahd's post raid." That's a lot of stuff. Let's try and break it down. Lost foster in regards to lost foster loved ones. I don't think Luffy has as much of a, you know, like an instinct, I suppose, for like, oh, a little kid, I need to take care of this little kid. We've even seen Luffy kind of a little bit more. I think in the past we've seen Luffy and like Luffy and kids. I think Luffy and kids like often have like a bit of a contentious or like teasing relationship. I guess it's not the same as like Nami's motherly instincts. I suppose. Just look at Luffy's interactions with Momo throughout. But then I guess you get to Luffy and Tama, and it's very different from Luffy's interactions with him and Momo. But I don't think it's like it's not necessarily the same as like Nami's, deeply rooted desire to like take care of lost kids. Luffy has the natural empathy of like, if Tama's starving, having to drink poisonous water and stuff like that, that he's going to be really angry and protective of her. But I think he would be that way for most people. Brook as a hope bringer. I don't think Brook's necessarily a hope. Like, I think that there's a lot of characters you could put before Brook in that sense. Like, again, Brook provides assist. Like, if you want to talk about hope bringer, like that's Luffy's role, 100%. If you want to give it to somebody else in the Strahd crew, I think like honestly, like Zoro or Sanji have more big save moments throughout the series than Brook. Brook really, really does not. I don't know how to paint this out for you guys, but like Brook really, really has very, very few highlight moments. There's still really not like a clear thing that he does in the crew that like if he's the hope bringer, how often does that even happen? Like that's really not his his role or his thing. I don't really remember too many instances like he came in clutch a couple times during the Robin fight as a sister and helped her out a couple times, but like the Strahds, the rest of them, such long rap sheets of like saving each other's asses. You know what I mean? Aslan says, "I found your Instagram and you're really buff." I don't have an Instagram, so thanks, Aslan, though. Anime Devil Hunter says, "You should do a JJK Shibuya arc analysis. Great arc." I like the Shibuya arc a lot. I took a break from JJK after it finished just so that more chapters could pile up because I gotten so used to binging the series. I'd have to reread to want to do an arc. Like, I don't ever want to do like arc analyses just for the sake of it for other series. But like, I think that Jujutsu Kaisen, it does a lot of things really, really well. I don't think I wanted particularly to do an analysis of the series while I was reading it. I was just really just enjoying reading it. So I'm probably never gonna force like a Shibuya arc incident analysis, but I'll say I really, really like the arc. I thought it was a phenomenal arc, one of the best, one of the most fun arcs to binge, in recent memory ever. Yeah, feel free to share I don't have an Instagram, so feel free to share this imaginary Instagram. It literally does not exist. Wait, actually, I don't know what you might have found. So Anuj Agrawal has a good point. Please don't put if there is something, if I've been tagged in other people's stuff, then please do not put that in chat. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. So I don't know, maybe I've been tagged or like I show up in other people's photos, but please, please do not do not share that shit. I would very much appreciate that. But in general, I also don't have my own Instagram account that I use regularly, so I don't know what you would have found. Babtron says, check missed chats before Bab Nation hijack stream. I think I've covered it. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, I have a missed chat from Babtron. Hashtag Bab Nation stand up. How's that hashtag working out, dude? But seriously, though, does the way the last 10 or so chapters are structured seem peculiar? I feel like you would know. Hashtag Bab Thoughts. I can never know for certain because I have my own bias. There are lots of small things that feel off to me or a little bit strange about the way things are structured. The simple example I gave was, the Sanji and Zoro setups, where, like, for some reason, Oda is alternating the timelines of their fights, which Oda really doesn't normally do. He likes to focus in on one character, let their fight play out, let the full story of that play out, then conclude it, right? The way Sanji's fight ended or potentially didn't end, I think next chapter, if it switches over to Zoro, that's going to raise a lot of red flags for people. Alternatively, if it concludes with something much more in-depth and interesting for Sanji's character, then maybe that's a bad sign for the raid failing. So I would say there's small things that I do think are, peculiar. But, like, I think that it's just hard to... It's hard for me to, like, objectively be like, oh, this is raid... Like, I released the last, like, raid fail video, and, like, when I did, I went through the things that I saw as glaringly different, right? Glaringly different. And I've seen more stuff like that seems minor, but still different to me from past arcs. But that's not like, concrete evidence that something really weird is going to happen or like Oda's setting up for a huge twist. It makes me think that, but at the same time, it's like, well, Oda might be doing things a little differently, and that's just a possibility. It's just the things that he usually I feel like he's really, really strong on. I feel like those things, I feel like he has not been quite as strong on, in my opinion, and they are just done a little bit differently, in my opinion. But, then Oda can still surprise me with, like, I really like the last Zoro chapter. I love that last Sanji chapter a couple chapters ago with the raid suit destruction. So, when Oda still hits us with that type of stuff, then I'm like, fuck, maybe this is the end. I don't know. But I don't think it is. There's still more reasons in my mind that, like, this seems strange than not. Behanort says, you skipped my message, but Behanort, I think I got it afterwards. Right? Let me double check. Yeah, it was the Yamato gender dysphoria question. So sorry you had to super chat twice, but sorry about that. I'll watch out for your next comment. Steals Your Skills, T.O. says, Oda hints Straw Hats' defeat in Jump Festa 2020. Read. What? You can't leave me with a small little blurb like that? What the hell? Elaborate. I have to read all of Jump Festa 2020? I'm not reading that. Please just tell me. Just guys, what happened in Jump Festa 2020? Someone make Steal Your Skills T.O. expand on this. Someone make him respond. Someone said, Jose Lari says, who the fuck is Eric? Eric Torlado, Red Force Podcast. Go check it out. The best One Piece podcast in existence, now that the Wano Report no longer exists. Keenan, thank you very much. Some talk got me thinking, how do you think Luffy would feel if Sanji was forced to hit a woman? Let's say it's a situation... Keenan, are you, like, really rich? I very much appreciate it. I, like, really, really appreciate it. Very much appreciate you in the streams. But, like, damn, you're, like... It's, like, very casual for you. It's just... I don't know, I'm shocked. I appreciate you, though. Some talk got me thinking, how do you think Luffy would feel if Sanji was forced to hit a woman? I don't know how Luffy would feel. Let me finish your question. Let's say in a situation where Luffy or someone else gets captured. If Sanji can't hit a woman, what does he tell Sanji to do? So Luffy is generally very, very accepting of, like, Sanji's eccentricities, right? I remember, for example, like, one of the things is that Luffy does not usually force his crew to do things that he understands are against their principles, even if he feels like that this other decision would be the right decision. So a smaller example would be in Enies Lobby. So in Enies Lobby, Sanji's telling Luffy, like, Zoro, they're having a Denden Mushi conversation, right? They're on the sea trains. Sanji's sea train is ahead of Luffy and Zoro and Nami's sea train, right? They're calling ahead, saying, okay, guys, hang back. Let's all fight the enemy together. You can't win alone. They're telling Sanji that, all right? Sanji says, sorry, I can't hold back. I just have to do this. And then Luffy says, that's fair. Go ahead. Do your thing, right? And Zoro's protesting, but Luffy basically says, I'm not going to Like, I'm not going to rein in my crewmates. You would do the same thing given a certain situation, right? Similar example, I think Frankie in Dressrosa, he wanted permission to help the Tontadas, even though that was against the plan. And again, Luffy was like, that's fine, Frankie, you go wild. So there's lots of instances where, like, crewmates will essentially ask Luffy's permission to do something that is, not ideal. But Luffy understands that based on their values, he's not going to stop them from being who they are. Now, the Frankie woman situation is particularly tricky because it's like, well, now you get to smaller and smaller margins of error, right? So it's like, imagine Luffy's about to be executed and Sanji would have to hit a woman. Like, Sanji can easily kick a woman guard out of the way and get to him and save Luffy. But Sanji refuses. I don't know. But the flip side, though, is like there is a lot of leeway to Sanji's decision to hurt a woman. Because if you remember, during Whole Cake Island, Big Mom was, I think, about to hit Reiju. I believe it was Reiju, right? And then Luffy and Sanji together actually came out and blocked Big Mom's attack. And they both used a combined attack to stop her attack. So, like, there is actually a lot, like, there's a lot of leniency and leeway to, like, Sanji's thing of, like, can't hit a woman. He can, like, get around them. He can block them. He can do a lot of things. So, I don't know if, like, if Sanji just refused to hit a woman to save Luffy, it would be, like, more like Luffy would count on Sanji to find a way to save him without, like, while still sticking to his values. But, like, I can't extrapolate for sure how Luffy would feel if, like, Sanji literally did not save him because he literally refused to hit a woman. That's just a situation Oda is just never going to put Luffy into. Luffy or Sanji into. The pirate hero says, I think it would be like telling Chopper to swim. Luffy knows Sanji just can't. I guess it would be similar. I don't know. It's not exact. I don't know if that's exactly the same thing, though. Ah, shit. Now there's a lot of gender discussion in the comments. This is why I don't try and share my limited knowledge on things. I stick to the things that I know. Terry Martin says, is White Lightning Conqueror's coding with the new ZKK? Oh, is the White Lightning Conqueror's coding the new ZKK? The new ZKK? I don't think it's the new ZKK. I don't think it's the new Z. I don't think anyone's saying Sanji's going to kill Kaido. Look, I mean, I'll be honest. I think Zoro killing Kaido, it's so funny to me, like, how the agendas, like, swing back and forth with every chapter, every change. So, like, 2 chapters ago, right? I think so maybe after 1032, maybe? Don't remember the exact chapter number. But a couple chapters ago, it ended with Zoro, being beaten. Like, his ass was getting beaten by King on the ground. He shriveled up. Enma's calling to Hiyori, or like Enma's going wild or whatever. It wasn't calling to Hiyori, my bad. Enma's going wild. People are roasting Zoro, talking about how he's so far off from Kaido's level. He's not even on King's level. Like, ZKK, what a joke, etc., etc., etc. Not even close to Luffy. 1 chapter later, Zoro's coating his blades in Conqueror's Haki, one of the probably the most advanced technique known in the One Piece universe, right? The rarest, most elite ability combat-wise. I'm not counting, like, voice fall things and shit like that. So, like, 1 chapter later, Zoro's doing that. And now we don't know how strong Zoro is after this. And then all of a sudden, like, ZKK is back in full force. So, like, 1 chapter before that, I was seeing, like, the death of ZKK, people roasting, making fun, etc. Like, people's tweets just been thrown across the timeline and, like, roast videos and stuff like that. Like, ZKK was in the mud. And then a chapter later, it's, like, back on top of the world. Like, Zoro's going to kill Kaido, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. These things just come and go. It's hard to... We're not starting a Sanji killing Kaido train, though. All right? But these things, they definitely swing back and forth. GK says, I feel like an antagonist will defeat Kaido. Being the strongest creature on Earth makes him the perfect character set to set another antagonist up. When you say defeat versus kill is 2 very different things. Defeating Kaido, that takes away because then it's just like, why are we even reading? Because it's like all this build up for this antagonist just to have him defeated by another antagonist to then set up for that antagonist. It's like, it suddenly turns this whole storyline into, something that never really got we never really got the full weight out of Kaido being who he is, right? All that buildup was just to set up somebody else. I don't think that would be particularly good, but in my opinion, I don't think it would be particularly good. But Kaido being killed, I've always said this: if Kaido is killed ingloriously, that's the key in my mind. He would be killed ingloriously, so maybe a backstab by Blackbeard after the war is over or something. That makes more sense to me, because Kaido, I don't think is supposed to have his dream of a grand death, but I think he could still have his dream of a death. More Keiichi says, better written character, Yami Sukihiro or Nacht Faust? I mean, like, I think sometimes people say, people are gonna make fun of you for talking about Black Clover, but I'll talk about it briefly. Um, I think Yami's like, I think, look, when you're talking about which character is better written or whatever, I think people too often err on the side of like, in my mind, there's two categories, right? So there's better written in terms of like the, I guess you could say like the depth of the character, right? Like how well fleshed out is the character, the dimensions of the character, how tragic is their story, right? Like how realistic is their emotional state, their psyche, their being, etc. Like how well fleshed out is that character, right? That's one. Two is, I would just call it character traits. Did you make an engaging, enjoyable, fun character to read? Like, are they, do they have, are they a fun character to read? Are they endearing? Are they, enjoyable to follow, right? And I think people very often don't like value character trait, like, and I see this actually, especially in the anime manga community. It's kind of odd. Like, it's funny. Like, how do I say an example? All right, Indiana Jones, not a particularly deeply written character. All right, he's just not. But he's still one of the greatest characters of all time because he's a really engaging, fun character to follow. Right? That can be the hallmark of a good character. It's not all about like how dark is your past or like how much trauma have you experienced. And it's something that I think, I don't know what the deal is with the anime manga community, but there is an obsession with that to a degree, that like that's what makes the best character. I would definitely agree that it can make for really, really powerfully written characters. Like, I think that Thorfinn's character arc in Vinland Saga, I think from the first arc, the prologue arc, through the farmland arc, in my opinion, it is the most compelling character arc that I've read in manga. And that in turn made me really, really like the character. And he became one of my, like, yeah, I would say he became my favorite main character in a series for a little bit, until Vinland Saga, in my opinion, fell off, okay? That's an example of, like, the fact that having depth, having a really powerful, compelling, well fleshed out character and powerful character arc can be really great. But then you get to a character like, let's say, I'm trying to think of a character from, like, even just Thorkel from Vinland Saga. Maybe I shouldn't use Vinland Saga examples. I'll use Jotaro Kujo. I think Jotaro Kujo is a relatively shallow character compared to a lot of other characters, even within the JoJo series. He's still my favorite JoJo. Johnny Joestar, the best written JoJo of all the JoJos. For me, he's my second favorite. I like Jotaro Kujo better because I like Jotaro's character traits are more fun for me to read. Like, he's a more captivating character to follow. He's just there's no character that in the JoJo series that like I am more drawn to, or I find more like endearing or enjoyable to watch on screen than Jotaro Kujo, because the author came up with some really, really like strong, a strong combination of character traits for him. So all that being said, I don't know, I wanted to use Yami versus Nacht as my ranting point for this. I'll say that Yami, I think that Nacht is a more, factually more, I think he's got a more interesting backstory in my opinion, and I think he deals like he's a little more a heavier character to follow, right? But Yami is just way more fun. Yami is one of the most fun manga characters I've ever read. About. Right? Yami is, I think he's, in my opinion, he's my favorite mentor figure character in any series that I've ever followed, because there's just no character that's that fills that mentor role in as unique a manner as Yami does. And I think that the fact that like he doesn't have like a very, very particularly heavy or dark or traumatizing backstory or anything like that. I don't think that takes away from him at all. I think he can be a better written character than any other character in the series, except for maybe Noel, even without having that much behind him, you know? Ninerbot says, why do all One Piece games suck? Man, I've never even tried a One Piece game. No, I tried One Piece fighting game. I tried One Piece fighting game. I don't remember exactly what it was. I don't like the fight. Like it was an arena fighting game, I guess. So like you're running around in a 3D space, so it's not exactly the same as a normal fighting game, which is I guess all on a single plane for the most part, unless you're Tekken. But Tekken, not Tekking, by the way, not the YouTuber Tekken, the fighting game series. But I don't know why One Piece games suck. I think maybe because, like, honestly, people say like One Piece games, it's so straightforward. Like you just make it like you just adapt the world or whatever. You can get that sense of adventure. But like most games, it's like honestly, it's the gameplay that's make or break, right? So it's like, why do most One Piece games suck? I don't know. Like maybe companies just don't like they. I think it might partly be because when you're dealing with franchises like a One Piece, you're gonna sell so well anyway. There's less incentive to make it a truly great game. You know what I mean? But I don't know enough about the gaming industry to really give a good judgment of that. But that would be my guess. You know, if you have like actual gaming series like a Mario or a Zelda, those gaming series sell well because they guarantee good games and good gameplay. But then you might say, I guess, well, then why is the Spider-Man why are Spider-Man games so successful, right? So they clearly put time into that. I think that it's possible it's just a difference in like audience bases or whatever, and like what the goals of the companies producing the games are. That's the best that I can say. So like Spider-Man games, maybe they won't get as many sales if you just release a normal Spider-Man game, but like people actually look forward to like high level content in that. Whereas with One Piece, like maybe it does generate just a lot of sales just based on the name brand alone, and people in Japan will like eat it up or something. I don't know. Bastiano T says the overarching story of One Piece is told in Orangetown, Gaimon's chapter, Arlong Park, and Skypiea. Too broke to fully explain here. Nah, I mean like I get what you're saying. I've talked as much. I don't know about Orangetown. I don't know what you're saying about Orangetown. I guess you could get into the point of like treasure. If you're getting to the point of like what treasure means throughout it, then because I see that as the overarching or like the similarity throughout the 4 points that you talked about, as these are all 4 treasure-centric arcs. So I think I get the gist of what you're talking about. Like these are things that I've kind of touched on in various videos. But maybe you have some different perspectives. I don't know. Anime Devil Hunter says, I'm currently binging Black Clover. I feel like if Tabata were to stop trying to stick to the shonen trope so much, it'd be so much more popular. Yeah, I mean, Black Clover, I'll always say it's my favorite guilty pleasure. I just find it funny when people shit on Black Clover because it's like, it's already, it's like considered so low by so many people. Like, what do you get out of shitting on Black? It's like, nobody's even talking up Black Clover. Like, there's nothing, like, what do you get out of making fun of it? Like, it's just like kicking a dog that's already down. I like reading it because I think it's fun. And I have zero expectations for it delivering on any of the more mature things. So I'm always like pleasantly surprised by the things I do like about it, which is that I think it has satisfying fights. I like the band of main characters because I like the group dynamic that they have a lot. And I think that humor, in my opinion, having like a really fun, engaging group of main characters, like the humor and banter between the group is really important. And Black Clover has its humor down. I think it's one of the funniest series out there right now. I think the story is actually very well planned. I said that until the Spade Kingdom. It depends on how the current arc plays out. But I think for the first like several 200 chapters, the series was actually very, very, very well planned. And I always really appreciate a series that like you can see that like A is leading to B is leading to C, and the author has a plan for how his story is going to go in phases. And that's actually very rare in a lot of manga. And then lastly, I think that the author does genuinely care about almost all of his characters because he has a large cast, but he has clearly some level of long-term character arc and character beats planned out for all of his main characters. Now, where the series fails is like falls back on a million shonen tropes that are really generic, to the point of just like cheesy cringiness. It falls back on it, but it's also self-aware, so it like neuters that a bit in my mind. Thematically, it will never even delve into any sort of deep themes whatsoever. Usually, very simple, straightforward, very palatable surface level themes. And then it will never do anything like particularly dark or consequence heavy. and that's probably its biggest failure point. Because the shonen tropes thing, that's what holds people back a lot for the beginning section. So you're not going to get far in Black Clover with all the shonen tropes and stuff like that. Um, what's funny is that the reason I actually ended up following a lot of Black Clover was I've probably mentioned this a lot, but like I had a roommate who was getting into anime, right? Partly because I kind of got him into it, right? He doesn't like reading as much, but I kind of got him into One Piece, and then he switched over to anime, etc. But because he's not as fused into like the Twitter sphere or like YouTube discussions or anything, he just like watches on his own. He's not as fully aware of like, oh, these are tropes. People look down on this series, etc. So he just liked Black Clover for what it was, like a fun series that he could watch while he was high. So then he made me like watch it, like episodes as he was watching it or whatever. So I'm watching with someone who basically has like he's watching it in a bubble. He's not thinking about it in terms of like tropes or anything like that. So he doesn't see the he's a very smart person, but it's just like he's not coming in with the former the stigmas that so many other weebs are coming in with, right? And he has no idea what the general public opinion is on Black Clover. So it was a more refreshing watch, I guess. You know what I mean? Like to watch a series with somebody who like isn't going to be talking about like, well, this is just a ripoff of like the Naruto Sasuke relationship, but with this extra spin or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like a little different. I think though that it's just an enjoyable series if you kind of just ignore the fact that it follows a lot of heavy shonen tropes for the beginning section of it, and then the later sections, the bigger holdup. It's not the shonen tropes; it's the lack of consequences and the inability to like follow through on certain heavier things. Christian Avery Griffin says, "Weird, we haven't seen a T-Rex devil fruit yet." That is so weird. I totally forgot about that, and I brought that up way back when I was trying to guess like the Toby Ropo's devil fruits. Vinland says, "I'm watching Dune right now, lol." Dude, Dune is like I've watched. I think that it stands out as like, how do I say this? A good sign for like maybe more artistically ambitious movies, in Hollywood in the future, because it was a success with some good direction behind it. But it is a little worrying, like that the script was so bad, but I think the direction was so good that it like carried the movie. So to me, that kind of reflects that like you kind of need the right director to elevate Hollywood films, because otherwise it's just gonna be the very standard fare across the board. The Dune film that we got with that same script with a different director could have been like the most generic shit ever. But what we got was like actually pretty cool. Eric says, Eric, Red Force Podcast, go check it out. Again, best podcast on YouTube now that the Warner Report does not exist. He says, more as I get older, I find myself staying away from media. Eric Terlato, by the way, a man who works in animation. I find myself staying away from media. I don't want my style and expression to be influenced. You find yourself in the same position. Oh, that's interesting. No. For me, it's different because how do I say this? Eric, you're obviously further along in like where you would like to be than I am, because you're getting to work as an animator. So I get the idea that you don't want your style to be influenced by others. I guess because I really want to be able to make movies someday. For me, I guess I'm still in the stage where like I really want to soak up as much as I can. I want to soak up as much as I can and like understand as much as I can, because that helps me, I think, get an idea of like what I would like to do. Right? I think it helps to see and like feel and understand everything that is possible, and that all the creative ideas that other people can come up with, and that helps me, I guess, in the sense of like, well, what would I like? How do I want to make things? You know what I mean? So I guess for me it's a little bit different. But I think maybe once you start working on, I guess you would say, on your craft, right? Your animation. If I got to make my first independent film or something, maybe from that point on, then you would want less and less influence. So like you're already at a point maybe where you no longer feel the need to see more animation to get an idea of how you want to do things. So might be just further along in what you want to be. Keenan says, from Drusser, Jump Festa 2020. Luffy's party's adventures are having their stakes risen as well. They'll soon be faced with the reality that you have to bring sacrifices to fight for the things you believe in. Ooh, what sacrifices have they made so far? The raid suit, I guess. That's interesting, but I would love to see that. Thanks a lot, Keenan. And no, thanks a lot, Drusser. Thanks a lot, Drusser. And Keenan. Both of you guys for bringing that to my attention. That is awesome. I think I did actually hear about that. I just totally forgot about it. Finland says, yeah, seems like a pain. Eric says, I work so much. Yeah, yep. They're just having a convo on their own. Myriad says, what do you expect to happen in 1035? I hope we see something from Luffy versus Kaido, or maybe a bit more from Yamato. Honest, straightforward expectation is we get Zoro versus King. I think that's the not super creative, I know, but that's just the straightforward, simplest prediction. I think we get Zoro versus King. Oh man, I'm like far behind. All right, let's catch up. Seal your skills. CEO says, I sent Oda's message in Jump Festa in chat. Got it, Seals. No worries. Got it. Luis Vasquez says, have you seen Super Crooks? No, I have. Sorry about that. I'm sure it's really good. I don't know what it is. Anuj Agarwal says, but Dragon Ball has so many fantastic games. Does it? I know Dragon Ball has good fighting games. Dragon Ball Z Fighters, but I don't know if it had good fighting games before the most recent iteration of it, right? Did it have a long history of good fighting games before? I might be wrong. I just know that like the newest iteration of Dragon Ball Z Fighters has been really popular. Never played it though. All anime games suck? I don't know about that. I mean, I think anime lends itself to like good fighting game possibilities. It just depends on who the concepts behind it. Easy News Explains says, what do you think will happen when kid puts goggles on? Question mark. I don't know if kid's ever gonna put those goggles on. Is that like a thing? Like, I guess like Zoro putting on the bandana? I don't know if kid's ever gonna put the goggles on. I feel like it might just be like a funny style choice that Oda's got going. I don't know about that. Grizzly Adams says, saw a theory. I'm not saying it can't happen. It's never been on my radar as something like, oh, when kid puts those goggles on, then he's getting serious. I have no idea. I didn't think about it like that. Chino Wong says, more just Black Clover #1 fan. I would not be surprised if I'm like one of the few people who's like openly saying like, oh yeah, I like Black Clover. You know? I think most people get off on just making fun of it. I'm not saying it's like great. I'm not even saying it's like very good. I'm just saying it's like it's enjoyable if you just don't hold it to a certain standard, and it is good at some things. So like, what more do you want me to say? I'm never gonna be like, oh, Black Clover is amazing. It's just very enjoyable. Grizzly Adams says, saw a theory on Reddit. What if after he's defeated, Law switches Kaido's consciousness with one of the Koi outside Wano? That would be hilarious. That is a cool idea. Kind of take him back from the koi fish to the dragon to the koi fish situation, you know? Wait, are we talking about who are we talking about? Are we talking about Thorfinn? I don't know who are you talking about. I don't have to scroll through to find out. Who are we talking about? But Dragon Ball. We're talking about Dragon Ball? Alright, I'll figure it out later. I don't know if we're talking about Thorfinn. Thorfinn was almost my favorite. I think he was my favorite main character for like a little bit. Luffy's generally my favorite main character, but like there was I think by the end of the farmland arc in Vinland Saga, I was like, Thorfinn, favorite character, favorite main character. It's like, love this character. Now, not so much. Yusuf Mafid says, have you seen Euderon's 2 peas in a pod theory? No, I don't know how much I trust Euderon's theories. That came out really, really harsh. What I mean more so is like, how do I say this? Euderon let me down a little bit because he was talking up chapter 1031, all right? And he was talking about like, look, there's 3 options for that. Onigashima coming down, Vegapunk showing up, or it means the long way, which is like a really weird vague statement, but like those were the 3 options he put out. So I'm like, all right, Euderon's Japanese, I guess these numbers mean something like that. I was just like, okay, Onigashima maybe comes down this chapter. That'll be really cool. All right? Maybe that means the raid failed. So I was excited for chapter 1031. And you know what happened in 1031? Did Onigashima come down? No. Did Vegapunk show up? No. Did they take some sort of a long way? No. So I'm like, ah, fuck. I don't know what to, like, I just don't know. Like, you know. Maybe I'll look out for this 2 peas in a pod theory or whatever. But like, I guess that's really harsh because it's like, well, one theory didn't come true, so therefore, like, writing off this guy's whole thing. But like, that's the only theory I know by him. So, you know, when you hear the one theory, and that was the one I was looking forward to, so it's my own personal bias. I was like, oh boy, Euderon, the Japanese theorist, he's saying 1031, Onigashima comes down. All right, good stuff. I'm hoping that he's right. I'm putting a lot of faith in this guy, and then it doesn't happen. I'm like, man, that's the last time I put my faith in some dude's theories who's just based on chapter number wordplay. You know, what's he got for like 1069? Like, oh, there's gonna be a sex scene in that chapter. Brilliant, Uteron. Wow. I'll check out the two peas in a pod theory later. Maybe it's genius. Anime Devil Hunter says, do you think we'll get an arc as great as Wano again? It seems like Oda is to pour his heart into this arc. Do you think we'll get one as good as this? Anime Devil Hunter, I say I like to believe that Oda's final arc is the arc where he's going to have his best ideas. And I mean, I think it's hard to go wrong almost with the final arc because as long as we see a lot of the Straw Hat's dreams coming true, like Chopper curing some incurable disease or something, Robin reading the true history. I don't know if Zoro defeats Mihawk in the final arc or maybe before the final arc. I don't know exactly, but like so many moments that are set up for the final stretch of the story, like getting to Raftel and such. I think it's so hard to go wrong with those that in my opinion, I think that no matter how good you think Wano is right now, even if it's your favorite arc, I would not be surprised if like the final arc is topping even this, right? But I still think that Wano has the potential to. I've always said this, like even if I'm not feeling as hot on Wano chapter to chapter, I've always felt like it still has the potential in my mind to become my favorite arc. Easy News Explains says, get on TikTok because I've seen a lot of people stealing your takes and theories. Easy News Explains, could you link me to these people? Can someone link me to these people? I don't want people stealing my takes and theories. That'll make me really the worst shit. The worst shit. This used to happen on Reddit. There was somebody who kept taking theories that I would make. This was when I was still on my rise, right? So I was still on my rise, so a lot of people weren't familiar with me on YouTube. People would take theories and stuff that I made. There was one guy in particular. He was also a Patreon, which was extra strange. So he would get the Patreon podcast because I used to actually do them back then. He would take full-on theories I would make, post them on Reddit, add in one extra little paragraph of his own input or whatever, not credit me whatsoever, and just be like post this whole thing. They would get hundreds and hundreds of upvotes, be at the top of the Reddit for days. And then I noticed this little pattern happening. So the first time I saw it, I would message him privately. Then I went through his post and be like, oh wait, he's done this before, right? And then I messaged him privately. He's like, oh no, sorry, total misunderstanding. I should credit you next time. Does it again, doesn't credit. Message again. He's like, oh no. I'm sorry. We just have similar thoughts or whatever. And I'm like, but you literally this is almost verbatim from my script, and this was not a theory before this. And he's like, whatever. And then after a certain point, it's just I don't know if he stopped doing it or whatever, but then he unsubscribed from my Patreon. And I didn't see, I stopped using the One Piece Reddit much after that, so I didn't really keep tabs on it. But past a certain point, I just realized okay, people are gonna go take certain things that I say, post them on Reddit, most likely not credit. Sometimes I've seen in the past people point out hey, this is actually from a Morge video or something, but that's not gonna happen every time. So I kind of just had to accept okay, that's just the case. And it's so funny because some people will come to me and be like, Morge, you get your theories from Reddit, and I'm like, is this a fucking joke? The amount of times that I've seen I've seen my entire Elbaf Shanks video, literally verbatim. Not literally verbatim, I shouldn't use the word literally verbatim, but all of the main points from my Elbaf Shanks video, a few months later, I see that posted on Reddit, and I'm scrolling through the comments, and I see one person pointing out hey, this is actually all from this video, this Morge video or whatever. And I'm just this shit happens to me, I don't know, it really, really bothered me for quite a bit. I kind of just learned to ignore that. It'll happen. TikTok is more worrisome because it's a medium I barely even know anything about. So I'm well, I really don't like people just spreading things on a totally different medium that I know nothing about. Reddit, at least occasionally I'll see things or whatever. It's random shit. Because I used to use the One Piece, before I was on YouTube mainly, I would use the One Piece Reddit quite a bit. Then I'm on YouTube, so I'm getting more of my thoughts on YouTube. I'm using Reddit less and less or whatever. And now at this point, I don't use the One Piece Reddit at all, except for when a new chapter comes out, because I'm interested in seeing, people's, especially if I like the chapter, I go, into the comments of the chapter stuff. I want to see what people think, and like, like you just want to get in. Like, I want to see it on Twitter. I want to see it on Reddit. I want to see other people's YouTube videos because if it's a hype chapter, it's cool. But besides that, I'm usually not on the One Piece Reddit ever. But like, it's stuff like this, and I'm sorry if I'm going too ranty and stuff like this. But like, I normally don't share this, but like, it's stuff that bothers me. All right, even things that I'll like kind of make up as terms. I'll see that. I would see that start popping up in the One Piece Reddit after I start talking about it. So like, I did a long video a while ago comparing pre-time skip versus post-time skip One Piece. And in that video, I talked about like, hey, so normally we talk about things in arcs and sagas, but I want to start talking about a thing called super sagas, because if you actually combine the sagas of like Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island, and Wano, it looks like actually what Oda's built up here in the New World for the first time is what we would call, I guess, a super saga. It's like a set of sagas combining to create a super saga. You can do Google search, Reddit search, whatever. People were not talking about One Piece in super sagas until I started introducing that. Then, on the One Piece Reddit, I start seeing the term super saga start popping up. People just start saying super saga, and then they'll act as though it's their idea. They'll be like, actually, if you think about it, Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, and Wano, these things combine to make a super saga. And you know what? You could even actually include Fishman Island, because that includes the Whole Cake Island, the Big Mom conflict. I'm like, that's literally a line from my video. I'm sorry I'm like going off on like this stuff, but like, it's so many small things that really bother me that are like, I don't know, I guess coming out right now. Anyway, it's like when you get to very specific terminology that people literally didn't say before like I start saying it in a video, that's when I'm just like, dude, just mention that you got this idea from a video of mine. That would be really nice. That'd be very helpful. Anyway. Where are we at? Fatali T says, have you read the Delta Dog comic book? People are saying it's like the American version of One Piece. No, I've never read it. I've never even heard of it, actually. I'll take a look. I'm interested in the American version of One Piece. The American version of One Piece is the Netflix One Piece show that's coming out soon. The pirate here says, I know the Chopper swimming / Sanji hitting women comparison doesn't really work. It's just an SBS 50. Oda said it's not like a policy for Sanji. He just can't hit women. He is actually frustrated by that. Okay, so it's like practically a psychological problem for him. I get it. It's just like, it also almost doesn't fly in like, because it's like not a thing you would accept in the real world. You know what I mean? So that's where it's like a little bit different. Like, you wouldn't accept that excuse in the real world. Easy News Explains says, get on TikTok. Oh wait, no, we did this one. Oh, and that one I got really mad. All right, we're gonna ignore that. Cigarverk says, OP fans pay too much heed on wordplays, real world / myth relation, like Momotaro. Numbers. Yes, Oda likes these, but he rarely uses it for something big. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, it kind of just depends, I guess. How do I say this? Like, you have to kind of give some credit, because like Oda will do things like the Gear 4th, right? The Gear 4th appearance mimicking or mirroring the Gear 2nd appearance, right? Oda will do things like that. But at the same time, how do I say this? It's just impossible to tell how much Oda will, like, I'm like, sometimes I'm interested because people will come up with like really convoluted things like Trafalgar Law, the Battle of Waterloo, like stuff like that. Like, they'll come up with really convoluted stuff and you can see it all kind of fitting. But at the same time, it's like, how much does Oda really want to mimic that sort of thing, you know? Like, it's just like, Oda even talked recently about how Chapter 1000, he had nothing really planned for that, but his editors pushed him to do it. But then at the same time, I'm like, no, but it makes sense that like Chapter 1000 is very neatly set up with Luffy climbing those stairs and everything like that. Would Oda really like force his story to mold into a certain way to make sure Chapter 1000 ends up a certain way, or is Oda kind of being not 100% honest about like, how things, how much he cares about wordplay or not, So I kind of give it like a little bit of credit in my mind. Like, okay, there could be some interesting wordplay stuff that Oda's leading up to, but I don't personally think about that stuff that much when I'm making theories for myself. Andrew says, how would you feel if Zoro and Sanji both lose to the commanders they're fighting? Also found your movie channel by chance because it got recommended. Love hearing that. The movie channel getting recommended. But I think that with Zoro and Sanji, I think it's very possible that they go down the same route as everybody else, making it appear like they beat their opponents. And I think it's very possible that they did not actually do it. Easy News Explains says the Super Saga thing is something I saw on TikTok too. Please do Google searches and you guys can track for your fucking selves. See when the first time that term appeared in the One Piece community. Okay? Or at the very least, the first time that like Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, etc., Wano was grouped together as the idea of a Super Saga. And see if it dates back to any time before my video on pre-time skip versus post-time skip One Piece. You will find most discussions of that term literally reiterating the same points where I lay out that concept in that video. It's actually absurd. Anyway, that's like a minor thing. That's like an example. That's the only reason that like I like there's other examples, but that's like one that just like sticks out in my head because I'm like now literal terms that were not normal One Piece vernacular, you know. It would be like if imagine Marine Guard number 2 really caught on. Where did Marine Guard number 2 catch on from? The ZKK video I made, right? Obviously that's not something that has actually caught on, but I'm just like imagine if that joke just caught on a bunch, and then like. Then people told me like, hey, Morge, you got that from Reddit. I'm like, is this a fucking joke? How did... Whatever. You can't control... You can't control the internet, but you could ask people to do like basic Google search and just compare when was the first date that these things were discussed. Because that's the simplest comparison. And then you can easily see when my videos come out compared to when other people start discussing them. Ninerbots' favorite future Straw Hat SBS design. Oh, that's a good question. I think that I would have to line them all up and see. I actually really like Frankie's one that we saw recently. I thought the Frankie stuff was hilarious. Jose Santos says he's mad. Yes, I am mad. I'm glad that you guys could pick up on that. Gabe C says, what do you think about Yamato dying as Act 3 tragedy? I think it would have to depend on how it happens because, yeah, Yamato at the moment, like, we just met her. We have learned some stuff about her. At the moment, I feel like Yamato just has, like, such a more extensive arc to undergo, in my opinion, from, like, the way that she's talking, right? Like, she literally believes that she is the next incarnation of Odin, a character who died 20 years ago. Like, she's got some stuff to figure out. So I don't know, like, it would take quite a bit, right? There's a more substantial arc for her. I wouldn't be surprised if she dies by the end of all of this, but, like, Act 3, especially if people believe that Act 3 is about to end, like, I think that's a little too fast for her story. The pirate here says, true with your theories, some are so prevalent, a lot don't even know it's you. Yesterday, I saw someone trash Morge raid fail theory by using your exact Sanji fight structure analysis and not realize lol. Dude, things like that, the Straw Hat fight analyses, I laid that out. You will not find people discussing that whatsoever. Okay, in other video, like, how do I say this? Like, the pattern of Sanji's fights using a mix of brains and brawn, so Sanji usually going about even with the opponent, and the opponent introducing some sort of trick that Sanji then has to use his wits to figure out, after which it goes back to normal, straight-up physical combat, after which Sanji wins. That's a pattern that I laid out in my One Piece fights analysis video. I think, like, some of my own viewers don't even know that, like, that comes from one of my own videos. Is Chinua Alibatia here? I think I saw Chinua Alibatia comment that pattern in the most recent One Piece chapter review, and then, you know, that got likes and stuff like that. And I'm like, I wonder how many of these viewers know that Chinua got that from one of my videos on One Piece fight analyses, like, that was from, literally, from this date, 3 years back. So, I don't know. Hokanta in Physics says, lol, we found his trigger. I have a lot of triggers, so don't feel too good about finding this one. I have several triggers. Yvonne M says, how does it feel that I'm going to dislike this video is not even a threat anymore? I mean, I don't think I ever had a video that, like, had more than, like, maybe I hit, like, 5% dislikes on some video or something like that. Maybe I'd have to go back. ZKK. I think that might be a video that maybe I got like 10% plus dislikes or something. But besides that, like my channel's like dislike ratio is always like 98%, 97%, 99%, like depending. Like if it's an analysis video, I get almost no dislikes. Maybe like 1% of people dislike it. If it's like a theory some people don't like, then maybe we'll get like 3% dislikes or something like that. So it's in that range. But I was never a channel that really suffered from dislikes. Oh, movie channel, I did a video talking about like how I think Rick and Morty kind of went downhill in season 5. Although I really like the season finale. Season 5 season finale of Rick and Morty is actually my favorite episode of Rick and Morty. Um, but I think people are a little biased by that because it ignores kind of an ongoing trend of like how the comedy has changed in the later seasons overall. Like you can still have a really good episode, but there can still be a greater trend that's happening outside of that episode. But anyway, that video that I dropped on the movie channel, I think that got like 10% dislikes, which that was kind of jarring for me because I was like, damn, like, I, like, yeah, I just never like. I was like, I, I don't normally get a lot of dislikes. I think, and I know that that is like basically bragging or flexing or whatever you want to say, but like that's the case. Like, so for me, that was like, it's like, damn, Rick and Morty fans really coming out in numbers to defend it, basically. Eric Trelado says ZKK was horseshit from day one. Thanks, Eric. Would you? I could. I mean, I'll be honest. I could see ZKK as a possibility. It's just like it's. I just don't view it as a likely possibility. Hey, Yano says relax, Morge, move on. Yeah, I think I lost like a lot of viewers while I was ranting. So we gotta we gotta get him back somehow. Get me on a good topic. What's a good topic? Someone say a good topic. Shinkai Kami16 says used to think ZKK was Ku Klux Klan a little bit. That's not a good topic. Let's get a better topic. Zoro kisses Kaido. I don't know about that one. BR Brandon Herkis says, Mr. Morge, make a video about Sanji's flames getting hotter based on how strongly he feels. Would be cool. I don't need credit. I mean, dude, I think that that's already a bit of the case, right? So we've seen that all the way back with Absalom. That was like the most Sanji's ever exploded. He didn't really use Diablo Janbei that point, but like we saw that, you know, we've seen a kind of a general trend of Sanji just like gets hotter as he gets angrier about things, right? That's why Hell's Memories works in the first place, because he has to think back to a particularly angry memory that he has to get to peak anger, right? To peak heat, right? I think that Sussmain says, "Oh, I missed a Morge rant. What was it about?" Don't even worry about it, man. Kit Spiken says, "A humble brag. Credit Harris Whittle." It was not a humble brag. It was an open brag. Teach says, "Elbaf report?" Question mark. I don't know if I would not hold out on more One report stuff in the future. Weekly Shonen Punch says ZKK is still on. Zoro kills King. Yeah, that's true. ZKK will. Well, I don't know if Zoro's gonna kill King even. I don't know if he's gonna kill King. The Poop Man says want to play Melee this week. I'm so out of practice in Melee. I would actually play you, the Poop Man. I should stream some Melee. I wonder how that would go over. Would people watch me? Okay, hold on. Let me do a poll. Would you guys watch me streaming Melee or Ultimate? Now keep in mind, the thing with Melee is that like I haven't gotten to play, like really time to regularly play since the summer, since like probably like 5 months since I've had good practice in Melee. And like it's one of those things where like I could play off and on, but like Melee is a game where like you kind of just need to grind it. Otherwise, like you're jumping in, playing one session a week or something like that, and then you're not doing well because you're not in practice, and then you get mad at the game, right? So for me with Melee, I like over this winter break, you know, I'll probably try and just like get back in practice over a couple weeks or something like that. People want. Okay, I like Ultimate. I like Ultimate quite a bit actually. I'm not good at Ultimate because like I just didn't play it, but I recently got it on my Switch like in the last couple weeks, and I haven't had like a lot of time to play it. But I think before I didn't really It's very different from Super Smash Bros. Melee. It's very, very different. So at first, like when I played it casually at like friends' places and stuff, I just like I didn't understand it. I was like, this game doesn't work. Things come out weird. It doesn't have certain things. I was just like, I don't like this game. I mean, not that I don't like this game, but I just saw it as like, yeah, not something that I'd want to play. Like, just not my cup of tea, I guess. But now that I've tried it a little bit more and like actually like tried to get to know how to play it, I actually like the game quite a bit for what it is. I don't know if I'd stream it though, because I'm not like I'd have to like get good at the game to stream it. Whereas Melee, I'm not like great, but if I got back in practice, I'm like decent. KGM78 says thoughts on the Cowboy Bebop live action. Haven't gotten a question on that in a minute. Um, Cowboy Bebop live action. I said I was a little more generous with it before. I watched 30 minutes of the first episode. I thought that it's a bad adaptation of Cowboy Bebop, but like maybe for the average Netflix viewer who has no concept of what the anime itself is about, right? No prior expectations or anything like that, and is just taking it for what it is, they could take it as like, like a fun sci-fi kind of light-hearted adventure with like some really campy, corny, cheesy, bad dialogue and some weirdly directed scenes, but still some good action and like kind of an interesting universe. I could see, like let's say if I'd never seen Cowboy Bebop, then I probably as a random Netflix viewer would probably have watched at least the full first episode and probably would have like tried another episode just to keep trying it. But I still would not have thought it's a good show. But then I watched the ending of the season, and I found out like I skipped ahead, right? I watched 30 minutes, then I wanted to see like, okay, how'd they end the season? How'd they do the scene? I found out how they did the whole Spike Vicious Ballad of Fallen Angel scene. I'm not going to spoil how they did it in the show, but when I saw that, I was just like, whoa, it's really bad. That's really, really like they took probably the best scene in the show, and they actually found probably the worst way that they could possibly do it. Like they found it literally possibly the worst way that they could, not literally. I don't want to use literally in like that stupid sense, but like they found one of the worst possible ways that they could ruin it. They're just like at that moment I was like they have no concept for the show. They have this it's like a shitty TV writer like took a really 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 great story that didn't need to be fucked with and just like inserted his shitty ideas into it to like turn it into this fucked up mess that like you should just it, like ruins the whole. I'm gonna leave it alone. I just don't think it's good. The Poop Man says, since when does this guy play games? I don't play many games. I really don't. Like Smash is the only game I play somewhat regularly. And even that I don't play regularly. In general, I did play Melee regularly for the first half of this year. Joey Jojo says thoughts on OP Film Z. I still have to stream that. Thank you for bringing it up though. I can't give you my thoughts. I watched the first 30 seconds and then the stream kept crashing, so I still have to stream that. Maybe we'll find a day in Christmas break, because that I'll have more time available. Vandal Cabbage 72 says, who's your main in Melee? I'm a Fox main. Yeah. Blah, yeah. Real creative. I'm a Fox main. Fox is fun, though. Fox is the most fun character for me in any video game ever. Melee Fox is the most fun character for me to play. Yamil Diaz says, Morge, which Straw Hat is which Zodiac? Carrot is and Yamato are obvious, the rabbit and the dog. Nami is the cat, Zora is the tiger, Luffy is the monkey, the rest. I've actually like tried to sit down and play that game. Not that game, but like tried to, sort that out in my head. And how do I say this? Like, you have to run with some assumptions that, okay, let's assume, like, people have to assume that Carrot is joining. People assume that Yamato is joining. It's hard because then you have to fit the assumptions. I'm going to switch Yamato out for Smoker because that's my pick. I switch Yamato out for Smoker. Smoker's the dog because Smoker's been called a dog by the Marines before. Among the Marines, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's part of his, that's one of the things he's been called. And then I don't remember the rest of the Zodiacs. But I can't, let me try and think. The boar, I think some people said Jinbei is the boar. Fun fact, I was born year of the boar. I think technically it's year of the pig, but it's cooler to call it year of the boar. So I call it year of the boar. That's technically correct in some spins on the zodiac sign. Dragon is, who's the dragon? Dragon's one of the zodiacs, right? Who's the dragon? The dragon's pretty cool. Who gets to be the dragon? Oh, Momonosuke, right? Momonosuke would be the dragon. Fuck. Yeah, Momonosuke is joining. Momonosuke is the dragon. Is this a video topic? Am I doing a video topic right now? I'm gonna put this into video topic things. Sorry, but I've snagged this as a video topic idea. Strahtz's Zodiacs feels like a bit of a lazy topic, though. I'll do it during a lazy week when there's no chapter. Mr. Crescent says, if the raid fails, do you think Kaido would make the Alliance watch as he kills someone from each of their crews, but before killing one of the Strahts, CP0 intervenes and allows them to escape, or is that too dark? Look, I've said before that I think that Killer could die at the hands of Kaido. I think that there is potential setup for that. So I could say that, I think Killer is a possibility. If, things head a certain direction, I would love to see Kaido killing Killer, the effect it has on Kid, and you guys already... I'm not going to elaborate on like what happens to Kid's crew after that because I have a full theory video on the ramifications of if Killer dies. And I think it takes the story in an actually very interesting direction. I would love to see one of the things that indicates to me that maybe things do go south and Kaido does go killing some people is the fact that the scabbards that were supposed to have died did not in fact die, which leads me to believe, that if Oda wants to have them have some sort of a sacrifice, he's actually leaving it for a final stand against Kaido or something like that. I would love to see if the Scabbards make a final stand instead of CP0, as you suggested. If the Scabbards make a final stand to allow some of the Strahts to escape, I think that would be great to see. It would allow their lives to actually go towards something that does ultimately lead to the liberation of Wano later down the line. Anime Devil Hunter says, have you ever played The Last of Us? I'm not saying every Scabbard dying. I think that Oda would probably not do that. I have a hard time imagining every Scabbard dying, but all the Scabbards trying to make a last stand, maybe. Anime Devil Hunter says, have you ever played The Last of Us? It's such a good story. It's amazing in my opinion. It's definitely not magnum opus, even though Uncharted is great. Not a big video games guy. So I know how big Last of Us is. I've seen people play it. It's just, I've had friends I've watched play it. It's just that's just not my, I haven't played a lot of first person video games. Put it this way. Last first-person video game I played was Super Mario Galaxy, all right? And I played that because I wanted a simple game to play to unwind after a stressful day, basically. So I picked the simplest game possible, got it on the Switch, I think a few months back, and I played Super Mario Galaxy for a little bit. And that was the last first-person game that I played. So that should give you an idea of how much of a gamer that I am. Ninerbot says, how do you create a successful YouTube channel? Hate my job life and going the YouTube route. Dude, okay, so that's such a loaded question. Such a loaded question because it's creating a successful YouTube. Okay, I'll just give you the very, very simple basics. One, whatever niche you're going into, understand what makes you different from other people in that niche, right? So your style, it's best not to try and copy other people's styles, right? If you're copying a style, then make sure that you're doing something very different in your own way, okay? So what do you bring? Different type of personality, zanier content, maybe more in-depth content, whatever you want to do, okay? So one, niche down, be unique in your niche, okay? That's one. Two is consistency. You need to be really, really consistent. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest metric for success. Not metric for success, wrong word. Path to success, okay? Metric for success is, of course, subscribers and views. But you want to be very consistent, very, very consistent. The more consistent you can be, you're just going to blow up faster, all right? So if you can do one video a week, amazing. If you can do 2 videos a week, even better. If you can upload the same time, same day, every week, week after week, you're golden. All right, you will eventually take off. My biggest thing holding me back from my channel for the longest time when I was rising, right? So getting to 100K was that for the first 3 years, I never uploaded consistently. At best, I'd do maybe 2 weeks back to back, then take a 3-month break or something like that because I had other stuff going on. It was only when I realized that I can really, really push this YouTube thing and it's COVID was hitting, it was time to really push it. That was when I became a weekly uploader. But the more you can do that, the better. Then just watch out for things like thumbnails. Those are the most important. We're still working on improving our thumbnails, me and my editor. Thumbnails, titles, stuff like that. Tags are actually not that important, funnily enough. And watch time is important. You want to get all your videos towards you know, somewhere I'd say like 8 minutes plus in terms of the length of your video is generally going to be good. I think anything shorter than that, you got to be like a certain type of channel to work if you're doing anything shorter than that. But in general, people appreciate content that's like 8 minutes and up. They're more likely to subscribe. That's the gist of it. That's the gist of it. Timothy McClendon says, Morge, why do a lot of people think that Brook is soft? Isn't he all bone? Ha 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 ha. Mango Chance in the chat. Mango is my favorite player. I know I'm a very, not a very original Melee fan, right? Melee player. Bruh Gamer says Falco greater than Fox. I feel like, seeing a lot of Falco mains here. I feel like Falco is like overrated in how cool he is. It's hard to explain. I mean, I love watching Mango's Falco, but I like watching Mango's Fox more. And I hate playing. Falco's just not a fun character for me to play against, so it's hard for me to find him cool. You know, one, it takes a while to like get half decent at like handling lasers, right? And then beyond that, like Falco for me, I just don't like playing against Falcos. So like because it's not even like, oh, I feel like I'm bad at the matchup, because I think there's other matchups that I'm worse at. I think I'm fine at the matchup now. But like Falco kind of stops me from you can't move around as freely, in my opinion. It's more like stop and go play very much. It kind of makes the whole gameplay, the whole match feel like just more, at least on my end, more stuttery, like more stop and go, like you're constantly getting interrupted and forced to like, you know, just being forced to have to get around the lasers or like deal with the lasers or like play around the lasers, etc. Like, you know, it like I actually, as Fox, I actually really like playing against Marth, because one of my favorite ways to play is I just like doing the Fox Marth feels like more pure. Like you both have very similar tools, very good, like actually somewhat similar tools, really good movement, right? Really good movement, mobility. Marth just is better at taking up space, right, and controlling space. Fox is good at like rushing, getting in, but also can play the keep away game if he needs to. It's just a more fluid game in my mind. Everything just kind of feels more like I get to just like play Melee. You know what I mean? I'm not going to try and give my like low level bad player Melee analysis. You know, I mean, I don't think I'm bad. Might be bad now because I haven't practiced in a bit, but like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm like very knowledgeable about Melee compared to other people. But I'm just giving my opinions on what I enjoy and don't enjoy in the game. Shinkai 9 Kami 16 says ZKK means Zoro kills King of Lightning. Yo. Okay. I don't know if that's what that means, but let's see. Andrew says, I'd love to see theories linking King to God's Valley. Yeah, I mean, it depends if God's Valley is secretly all about the Lunarians, which, I mean, it's possible. I like to think that God's Valley was connected to the Three-Eyed Tribe, but maybe the Lunarians and the Three-Eyed Tribe are connected in some way. Vandal Cabbage 72 says, I will legit get Slippy if we can play online for a set. Dude, I feel like you're going to... Oh, you will get Slippy if we can play online. If you haven't gotten Slippy, I feel like I'd beat you. Let me get some practice. Oh, you haven't played since COVID started, so I think we'll be on equal levels. Yeah, but I don't want to be on equal levels. I want to beat you. So I'll get some practice. Then, like, you know what? Maybe I'll do a stream where, like, you know, viewers can come in, drop their, you know, Twitch name or whatever, and then, like, we can play in Slippy. But yeah, I don't want to be on equal levels. I don't want to lose to my viewers on stream. I want to win. But I'm scared because I feel like it's not going to go that way. Pirate Hero says, I missed a super chat. Thanks, Pirate Hero. From JTC, Diablo Jambe versus Red Hawk. You mean like what's cooler? I think Diablo Jambe is cooler. What's stronger? I feel like, I don't know, like, it's hard to say. Like, because Diablo Jambe has become so casual for Sanji at this point. It's just like one of the things that he does, whereas like Red Hawk is like one of Luffy's specialty moves for the most part. It's so hard because they've gotten such strong power-ups recently, right? So like, how do I even compare Diablo Jambe right now to like Sanji's got this exoskeleton and all that stuff. Luffy's got advanced Conqueror's Haki. I mean, I'd say just on the back of the advanced Conqueror's Haki alone, like Luffy can forget Red Hawk. Luffy can split the sky with Kaido with just a normal punch. So I'd say Luffy would win a clash. Like forget the Red Hawk. Luffy, I think a normal punch would beat Diablo Jambe Sanji. Diablo Jambe Sanji. But like if you're talking about like just coming out of the time skip, I don't know, it'd be closer. I still think because Red Hawk was one of Luffy's special moves coming out of the time skip. whereas Diablo Jambe had actually just become one of Sanji's more standard, like, it doesn't really mean anything for him anymore. He just uses it all the time. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Andrew said, nope, we skipped you. I mean, we didn't skip you, we covered you. Gunter says, have you seen Serial Experiments Lane? If not, would highly recommend. I've not seen that, but I might check it out. I don't even know what medium that is. Is it live action, animated, anime, manga? I don't know. Yamil Diaz says, additional info for the Zodiac vid. Cover 651 and 861. Thank you. I can't believe I'm considering doing a lazy Zodiac vid, but I appreciate it. I think it could be fun, though. I've earned a fun video. Maybe I'll do it after Marine Ford, because that's like a longer video. I think I earn a fun video after that. Eric Trolata says, stupid question. I don't even know what that means. Who are you talking to? You talking to me? What stupid question did I say? This is my stream, Eric. No questions are stupid for me. The Pirate Hero says, super chat. No, we covered this. Where am I at? Where am I at? How far back am I? Appman2 says, do you think Brook will die? Brook already died. Ha 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 ha. Yo ho 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 ho. My theory is that the Yomi Yomi Nami has an ability similar to the Ope Ope Nami's immortality surgery. But it has done that, right? Oh, but you're saying that there's some similarities and abilities that we're going to find out down the line? That would be interesting, because we already understand things like Brook's Soul Fruit, right? Like, it interacts with Big Mom's, not Soul Fruit. Brook's soul can interact with Big Mom's homies in a certain way, because there actually is some overlap in terms of how the souls work, right? So there are some underlying concepts that actually do connect in some way, like fruits that have some really interesting abstract concepts like that. Interacting, so like maybe even the concept of like coming back to life, or like immortality surgery, or inability to die, these things can come into play in some interesting way. Gabe C says, I bought your stupid plush so you would do a waifu tier list, so just do it already. And why is it Dominican? Looks like my uncle who's living in TR. I never promised I never promised a waifu tier list for the plushes. That literally never happened. I would never do that. The waifu tier list it has a much higher premium than that, than just some plushes. Why is it Dominican? Because I couldn't tell the color of it when they showed me the mock-ups. I was like, it's probably Indian. I could see the facial features. I was like, maybe they think I'm Mexican, but it wasn't like a big deal at the time. I was like, it's good enough. In my mind, it was good enough. And then I got the plush, and I was like, I put it somewhere else. I don't know where I put the plush, but I got the plush, and I was like, that's a little off. That's not exactly me. But luckily, we sold out, so things worked out in the end. Josh Ikomo says, please tell me you've read Dorohedoro Morge. I've read Dorohedoro. I only said that because you said, please tell me I've read it. I haven't actually read it. I just wanted to appease you. Liam Fish says, we need an official Reverie for Waifus tier list. I think that's King of Lightning's job. I think King of Lightning has actually legitimately done a stream like that where he invited a bunch of One Piece YouTubers to do it. I think check King of Lightning streams. He might have actually done that. All right, guys. No more super chats. Okay, Edward Roman says, thoughts on UFOs and disclosure. Edward, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. Did I not make Edward a moderator? Can't believe I didn't make him a moderator back in the day. Thoughts on UFOs and disclosure. I have no thoughts on them. I believe that the world government... Can't believe I said the world government. Too much talking about One Piece for the last 2.5 hours. I believe that the government has access to all... Okay, so UFOs are real, right? Because the term UFO just means unidentified flying object. We have countless cases of confirmed UFOs. It just has to be an unidentified flying object, right? Aliens is very different. So I definitely believe that we got aliens. We've got some knowledge on aliens, in my opinion. And the government's just keeping it super duper under wraps. And I got nothing more to say besides that. I'm not saying we've got like an alien hidden in a bunker somewhere. But you know what? The part of me that likes to believe and imagine likes to think that we've got aliens somewhere. Because otherwise it's just too boring. We don't actually have aliens? That'd be really boring. Like, if there's no aliens hidden somewhere, it's just like, Man, like the world's not that interesting. You know what I mean? Yeah, no more super chats. Last super chat. But I'll hang around for like a little bit and catch up on any other little questions. Devin says, please tell a joke. Uh, what do you want me to say? I actually have some good jokes. Hold on. They're knock jokes though, so it would only really work if I've got someone to bounce this off of. It doesn't work if I can't just tell it to a chat. Knock jokes have to be interactive, you know? Ender Ayanami says, thoughts on PGR all-time ranking, specifically Mango over Armada. Look, I like Mango is my favorite player. I've said that before. I actually once tweeted at Mango, like, it's hard to say, like, I think that there is legitimately though strong, like the people who voted on it, like the reality is like most community figureheads and such, they're Mango fans. So like, I don't think like it's hard to explain because like I watched Armada's period of time like at the top. Like I watched it. Like I saw like I saw how much he fucking won, and like how ridiculously like Mango over Armada. It's just like it's just I feel like it's just not fair. To me, it would be like ranking like people who rank Kobe over Tim Duncan, you know, because like Kobe's the cooler player, the flashier player, like the more popular player. But then, like, if you wanted to get into serious rankings of like, okay, well, what is their resume within the game? The resume within the game. Most serious basketball analysts actually do put Tim Duncan over Kobe. It's still close, but like most serious basketball analysts put Tim Duncan over Kobe. I think that should be the same with Mango and Armada. It's just that like, it's unfortunate. It really is like a you know, I think that Mango can go down as the greatest of all time. Mango's my favorite player. I personally believe that Mango has the highest peaks in play that I've ever seen. I think he's always going to be the most fun player to watch. I think that he's the most important player to Melee. But I think it's just really unfair to Armada that like kind of like the Mango love just overshadowed. Like Armada had such a crazy good resume. It's just like damn near like I saw some stat like he won like 40% of super majors he attended. That's just mind like when you really think about that, that's just mind blowing. Like 40% of super majors, like nearly half of all super majors won by Armada that he went to. That's crazy. Like the things that he accomplished, like I just don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think it was really fair. I saw a comment on the Reddit thread when those rankings came out that I think is definitely true, which is that if you swapped Mango's and Armada's legacies, or swapped Mango's and Armada's resumes, people would still have likely put Mango at number one. Because then they would have just said, like, you know, Armada, he's got the legacy and stuff, but, like, Mango's so dominant, won 40% of super majors, he's got all the stats, etc., like, all these years of dominance, like, no one could touch him, blah, blah, blah. Like, all the best records, right? Like, I think people would just pick, like, you can choose to value Mango more because of longevity, but, like, I just think it's a stretch argument because, like, it's really just, like, this wouldn't be an argument if Mango hadn't won Summit 11, right? He won Summit 11, and then all of a sudden, like, it's, I think, a lot of recency bias. I think, like, people really putting that one on a pedestal and stuff. Like, Armada's won, like, 4 Summits. It's just not really fair, I don't think. You know? The Poop Man says legacy and resume mean the same thing. No, they don't. They don't. You know, like you can compare. Like Michael Jordan has a bigger legacy in terms of impact on basketball by far. Legacy extends to things like outside the game, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a really good resume. His resume is kind of close to Michael's actually. I wouldn't say it's the same. I'd say Michael has the best resume and the best legacy, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a legacy that's like, or sorry, resume that's like comparable to Michael Jordan's. Still less, but I think it's close. But his legacy is nowhere near as big as Michael Jordan's. That's the reality of it, right? Legacy is different. Like, I mean, you can legacy I think extends to things outside of the game, like the effect you have as an icon, blah blah blah. But like, generally in most like. This is another thing that like maybe it goes to the fact that like it's a ranking among video game nerds, which is like you like people stretch definitely like if you follow real sports, when people talk about the greatest of all time, they do actually try to focus on comparing resume to resume, right? Like most people when they're talking about like I would see like in the like when people are talking like Mango or Armada, people would come up with arguments like, well, it's greatness and greatness is subjective, and it's like You can say like Mango's influence and how popular he made the game, etc. It's like outside of the game stuff matters because greatness is subjective, whatever. It's like, yeah, that's true. Greatness is subjective, but it's like if you are like if you're gonna pretend to like take esports seriously or something like that and actually try and treat it like a sport or whatever, if we're gonna pretend stuff like that, if we actually want to like treat our esports stuff as similar to real sports stuff, then you can't like then you kind of drop a few of the things like okay, just like sucking off whatever player is the most popular and like twisting definitions. Then like actually, if you want to do an all-time ranking, then do it similar to how like real sports do their all-time rankings. Most tennis lists from now on are probably going to have Novak Djokovic as the number one player of all time, even though he is nowhere near as popular, has had nowhere near the influence, the love as Roger Federer or even Rafael Nadal. Most people are willing to like acknowledge and tip their hat. You even see other players talking about like they're willing to acknowledge and say like resume wise, reality is Djokovic has passed those guys up, and we're doing it somewhat objectively. We're going to base it on things like that are measurable. Slam count, right? How many Grand Slams have you won? How many years at number one, weeks at number one, dominance at Masters and stuff. Like generally like real sports, if you want to actually honestly try to do a greatest of all time ranking, you try to follow a template that is more fair, right? It's not going to base things on popularity or how much merch you sell or how many sponsors you get, right? It's like, what's your resume in the game? And they just didn't do that, I don't think, with Mango and Armada. And you can kind of see inconsistencies with their logic throughout the board. Like, why is Ken over Mewtwo King if you value longevity, right? Like, the reality is Mango was put over Armada because, like, it's voted on by fans who are not really going based on metrics as much. They'll go on metrics a little bit, but they're going to go with like what they want to say more, That's it. That's all I got to say. Sorry if I bored you non-Melee fans. I think what I talked about extends a little bit past that, but I just think it's, I just think that the all-time list is kind of laughable because it's just like for Smash Bros. Because it's like, it felt like they did the whole thing just to put Mango over Armada with like really random arbitrary measurements of like trying to compare eras and shit like that. Like what do you even like? There's different numbers of majors in different periods of times, different level of competition, different training tools. Like the variability is so huge. It's like not even. I think it's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, Jose Lario says it's about winning in the end. That's why they play it. Yeah, it is. And Armada won the most. Like, that's the thing. Like, here's the thing. I'm also a Mango fan, so understand this. Like, Mango's my favorite player of all time. Armada actually was back in 2015. I became a Mango fan in 2016. And Mango was never number one in the entire time that I watched him. But, like, I got to, like, see the highs and the lows and, like, the struggles and stuff. Like, it was great being a Mango fan because sometimes he'd win, sometimes he wouldn't. I feel like a lot of Mango, the other thing is he pushed a lot of the agenda of him being the greatest himself, which it's not normally how you really do it. Like, again, if you want to do a real sports world comparison, you know how much flack LeBron got for even mentioning just once that he thinks that he's the greatest? Like, he still gets roasted for that to this day. But because it's Melee, it's like a video game, and, like, everybody just looks up to you, and, like, you're the most popular figure. If you start saying stuff like, I'm the greatest, these video game nerds, like, they don't have any context. They don't know what these words mean, like, when you're talking about, like, actual resumes and stuff. So if their favorite player is telling them, like, I'm the greatest, then that's what's going to happen. And the other thing that makes me disappointed as a Mango fan is that I know that he's not going to try or push as hard now that he's got this greatest of all time thing on his... It's so sad because, like, if Mango still felt like he had to chase that title of greatest, right? Like, if he still had to chase number one, if like people were telling him like, look, Armada's still number one. If you can be number one, like if you can get world rank number one on the SSBM rankings for one more year, then everyone's gonna call you the GOAT. Then Mango would try harder. Like, that's the reality. He would fight for that number one position or like fight to win more majors or super majors. I don't know if like he's really gonna try quite as hard going forward because people are already calling him the GOAT as is. There's no one for him to chase. Anyway, I'm going to stop boring you guys with like some random shit. Vandal Cabbage 72 says, nah, Mango going hard as fuck right now. He literally took a break from Melee after Summit for like 6 months. He did not practice hard. You could see his tweets and the stuff that he's been saying. He did not practice Summit hardcore for a long time. He even joked, jokingly, that like, oh, now that I was ranked number 1 in Melee's all-time list, I'm not winning Summit because I'm just gonna fuck around. Obviously, he's joking. He's still gonna try and win and continue to cement his status. But like, I think part of the reason that Mango tried so much harder in the last 2 years and like pushed himself to like the highest level of Melee ever was because he like wanted to catch up to Armada's legacy, if that makes sense. He wanted to prove something in the wake of Armada. I don't know. Oliver Klozov says Curry greater than Kobe. No, and I really like Curry. Curry is my second favorite player of all time. Second favorite player of all time is Curry. And I know that Kobe is a greater all-time player. Blank says, do you think Kid didn't lose his arm and bet his arm on his own future to parallel Luffy? Wait, no. Nah, I don't think so. But there's something interesting there. The Poop Man says, Morge cares about this stuff more than I could have ever imagined. I actually am like secretly like when I get invested in like a sport or like an esport, I actually care quite a bit and like I'll follow quite a bit and like be fairly invested. Used to be a big tennis fan, then became like a big NBA fan, have been a big Melee fan for a while. I don't follow that many sports, so I'm not like a big football fan. You know? Like I'll watch, but like in social settings, like purely in social settings. I'm never gonna turn on a football game by myself. The Pirate Hero says, Morge, I'm writing a script around themes in One Piece. I wanted to name a character after you. What should I name him? Not Morge, please. You can't name him Morge? That's really sweet, man. I actually really appreciate that. But I don't understand. If you want to name him after me, but you don't want to name him Morge, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what to say. Can you not name him Morge? Is it a name that I pick? Can I pick the name? Can I pick the name? If I'm allowed to pick the name, let's name the character. Okay, let's name the character Max. How about that? Name the character Max. Neve Toady says, stop the basketball discussion, you're losing viewers. I mean, like, the stream just naturally, it dwindles over time. I also mentioned that I'm closing the stream in a bit, so I figured I'd answer some random questions. But, yeah, can I name the character Max? I feel like that's a boring name, but, like, let's do that. Jose Lario says Warge. Red X says Lorge. Got some conflicting things there. Chinho Wong says Max is so normal, lol. Alright, fine. Spoilers. Max is my nickname to a lot of people. Alright, so, like, thanks, guys. I was like, that's my nickname to, like, a lot of people know me as Max. But thanks a lot for shitting on. No, not Max sounds mid. Fuck you guys. All right. Fine. Not Max. We'll change it. All right. What do you want? Huh? Max is horrible. Max is horrible, I'm told. Yeah, Yanel retracted the message. Chino Elevatius says such a lame name. Max is my dead dog. All right. I'm sorry that I came up with Max. I'm sorry that I shared a little bit of myself with you. I'm never telling you guys anything else about me. All right. Let's think. How about it's got to begin with an M, right? It's got to begin with an M. No, you know what? I get to pick the name. The name is Max. Fuck you guys. The name is Max. I don't have to change it for you guys. All right? No, it's not Maximus. It's not Maximilian. It's Max. All right? 8 Gates, I look forward to reading the script with the character Max. I'll skip right to his part. Pirate here says cringe to the max. Max is not a cringe name. That's a really normal name. Fail Raid. We could name him Fail Raid. Maze says M names are the best names. No bias, right? Hey Yano says it's actually a beautiful name. Hey Yano. Hey Yano had a comment shitting on Max. Then I saw a message retracted, so he deleted it. And now he comes back with, it's actually a beautiful name. Thanks, Hey Yano. Max's last name? Let's make it Morge for the character. Oh, Edwin, thanks. No super chats, guy. I was actually gonna call the stream in a second. I'll finish the stream in like 3 minutes. Let me answer this question. I'll answer one more question after that. No super chats though. Edwin Vargas says, "Do you think Act 4 in Wano will begin soon?" Look, I mean, the thing is, like, there has to be like a clear demarcation point, right? Acts are not random things. You don't just throw in an act for no reason. Like, an act is the closing of a large series of events and a clear phase of the story and a beginning of a new phase. So, if this is the final battle, I would not expect the final battle to stretch into another act because it doesn't really make sense. Like, where would you have, like, what, like, everybody else defeats their opponents, then Luffy fighting Kaido, that's its own act? That doesn't really make sense. It's like that's just a continuation of the current flow of events of the story, which is everyone fighting this battle against the Beast Pirates, right? It's the same way that, like, you wouldn't suddenly like end an act partway through Enies Lobby after Zoro beats Kaku and then be like Luffy beating Lucci is its own act. Like, look at the acts we've had so far. They're very clear, distinct. Like Act 1, Day 1 in Wano, just introducing us to the scenario, setting up all the characters in the places that they need to be. Luffy in prison, all of the Straw Hats having their new roles assigned to them, right? Break for Act 2. Act 2, you have everybody in their roles, basically all of the setup for the raid, things coming together, lots of exposition, blah, blah, blah. Then Act 3, you got the battle. If you're going to have another act within the battle, then there needs to be like a significant break and like a sudden, clear, massive change of events and closing of events to be like, oh, actually the battle warrants 2 acts, right? Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense. Then it's just like a random act for no reason. Aslan is, please don't spoil me on Record of Ragnarok because I'm not caught up at the moment. Not caught up on the moment. All right, I'm going to answer one more question. Let me see if I can find a fun question. Max Payne. Nope. Virgil Hawkins, I'm not caught up on Jujutsu Kaisen. I only read to the end of the Shibuya incident arc. I'm going to let it run on for a bit and then maybe binge all the way to the end. Muhammad Hassan asks, how strong will Usopp be at the end of the arc focused on him? Oda said that Usopp will always be the weakest Straw Hat, but I could see him temporarily for one moment becoming, I don't know, maybe comparable to Yasop or something. It's hard to see him doing that, though. Maybe he's able to keep up with Yasop through like trickery instead of like through craftiness, etc., rather than like actually being as strong. Okay, rule. If we get one more super chat, I'm not going to respond to it. I'm going to respond to Haritesh Doobie so that you don't feel like you wasted. But any super chats from here on, I will literally not respond. Sorry. Haritesh asks, hey, what do you think is going on with Bonnie and Kuma? I think we might find out after this act ends in Wano. I think we'll get filled in a lot on what happened at the Reverie, and I think Oda's keeping it under wraps for specific reasons. But seriously, no more. Answer the Usopp question. Pirate here says, Morge, I'm sorry, making fun of someone's name is the real cringe. No, I don't care. It's not, it's fine. It's not fun. I mean, it's not, I said it's not funny, but it is funny. All right, it's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no good questions. We got a question? Derek Turner says, how do you think we're going to transition to the next arc? I will make that the last question. Next arc, I mean, no, that's a boring question. I just think the arc kind of closes like they defeat the Beast Pirates, etc. We get some outside world building shit. The Marines go away because they get turned away by, they can't fuck with Wano because Wano's too strong. And we get some outside world building shit, and then they're off to Elbaf to collect the last of the road poneglyphs. Boring question. Let's get a better question. Origin of Morge, that's too long. It's also not that interesting. just a long thing. If Kuma's Bonnie's son, yeah, I mean maybe that's a possibility. Oliver Klozov, I actually agree with you. I also hope that Usopp has some issues with Yasop that maybe he's repressing at the moment. Yeah, I'll do Origin. I'll save that Origin of Morge for another stream. I've actually talked about it before. It's not like super interesting. It's just like I don't really feel like going into it here. Pirate ship tier list is Emil Diaz. I'm gonna put that into good ideas list. I got so many good ideas off of this stream. That never happens. You guys are normally terrible, extremely unhelpful. But this stream, you guys surprised me. All right, GDN says, Morge, are you sold on Sanji versus Kizaru? Let's say that's the last question. Yeah. I think Sanji versus Kizaru, I think it would be criminal if we did not get to see that matchup. It's not even like Oda's really like set up any sort of animosity or anything between them. But I just think that that's the coolest fight Sanji could ever get in this series. Sanji versus Kizaru, the coolest potential fight that he could ever get in this series. And it just feels like such a matchup that like it's like too good of a possibility not to do, you know? So that's basically it, and I'm going to call the stream on that. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.